monkey.
Yeah, I can like hear you really clearly too.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and keep this thing kind of close to your face.
Okay.
It should be all the way up, but it's kind of hard to catch it at some points.
Sure.
Okay, here we are. What's up, brother? Cheers.
What's up? Cheers.
Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
This is a long time coming, so.
Yeah, they always are. That's what people are like, dude, I swear I'll get in. It's like, dude, I do one like once every other month. I think we'll get around to scheduling it.
Yeah, for sure.
And
It can be hard to just block out the time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, like, it was easier at the apartment because I was, wherever the guest lived, I was pretty centrally located to a lot of people, whether if you lived in West County, like St. Charles, South County, the city, wherever. I was pretty central to most people, but now it's gonna be a bitch for people to come out here, and that's why I've had the thought. So I have 4 of everything.
Okay.
And I've thought, like, with Tommy, I've been wanting to, like, put together, like, that box over there that has all that shit in it, to put, like, a travel case together.
Sure.
So, like, if there's, like, I could go to someone's office.
Yeah.
Or, like, in theory, I could come to your living room.
Sure.
To, like, make it easier for things. Because I don't want, like, let alone this being in my basement, like, I don't want just, like, let's say I do 100 of these. I don't really want 100 people coming to my house.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, that's kind of, I don't know, I'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, especially as you start to, like, branch out and do people that aren't, like,
right, like,
coming over to your
immediate
house anyway,
friends. Yeah.
And it can be in, like, a more, like, if you do them that start to gear towards, like, the professionalism side of it, then, like, yeah, having that travel and being able to meet people would
Right,
be nice.
exactly.
It's a lot of equipment to just
I know.
haul around, though, for sure.
That's where, like, I've got 4 of these, I've got 4 microphones, I've got 4 headphones. I could bundle up like, I don't need to take all this junk.
Yeah.
And, like, that won't come down. But, like, if someone already has something in, like, their office or, like, ideally I want to find, like, a co-working space.
Yeah.
But the problem with those is they're not open after hours. But if I could find, like, a co-working space that has, like, even a conference room that I could rent, even if it was, like, $25, $50, $100 an hour.
Yeah.
From, like, at, 7 to 9, whatever it is, in, like, Clayton or fucking whatever, I don't know. That would be sweet. But then again, I'm, like, just dishing out cash.
Right. I was going to say, you could do, like, I feel like hotels have that kind of availability and stuff, too.
That's a good idea. I didn't think about that.
There are a lot of, like, especially now, like, post-COVID and everything, like, I was talking about this with someone at my firm the other day, but someone at my firm's wife used to work in my building, but their firm switched to, like, they have their physical office, but if you are going to go in for that day, you, like, reserve a space.
Yeah.
So you don't have an office in there technically, but you just say, like, I'm coming,
and you
get, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
You get that desk or whatever.
Yeah, so you can, like, block out space. But I feel like there's a lot of places that you can just rent, like, temporary workspaces and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's tough because you can't really do it in public.
Right.
Like,
right.
At Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Setting this up.
I can't do it at a brewery.
Yeah.
But anyways, welcome back, everybody. This is one of my best friends, Kellen Cushing, Kellen Michael Capshaw Cushing. Just to get straight into it. Well, why I wanted to bring you on here, I see you as one of the good angel on my shoulder. I really respect your opinion in a lot of things, and I also call you my lawyer, whether you are or you're not. In my head, you're my lawyer.
I am.
Not legally speaking,
on
but
the record.
yeah. And I kind of like to get straight into that, and I'm gonna play like devil's advocate / village idiot on a lot of these questions. But I feel like a lot of people that are going through law school and want to get into the law realm could have a lot of takeaways from you.
Sure.
So if you could just give like a 2-sentence spiel on where you're at and who you are.
Sure. So I am a corporate litigation attorney. A lot of my emphasis is in real estate, but I do a good mix of stuff, a lot of business transactions. I think I just hit my 2-year mark at Carmody McDonald.
Congrats.
So, yeah, that's been great.
2 years, just like that.
2 years, which is crazy.
Holy shit.
It's going fast for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did undergrad at Mizzou with Jack. Did 3 extra laps. So, all 7 years at Mizzou.
We'll forever be jealous of that.
It It was really fun. It was great to get to go to law school with people who didn't go to Mizzou in undergrad because they just had like a lot of different things that they wanted to do in Columbia.
Okay.
And a lot of people, like a lot of our friends and a lot of people we knew in college were all our age, but a lot of people in law school take time off and work and then come back. So like there were people in my law school class with families and like husbands, children. So yeah, that was really cool. And it was great to get to experience what other people wanted to do. It also kind of propelled you a little bit into moving out of the college phase, because there were definitely times in law school where I felt like I was still in college and going to Harpo's and stuff. But yeah, it was a good time.
Well, like in the classroom setting, there's adults with you.
Yeah, and you are an adult, but like not really at 22.
Yeah, no, you're not. No, you're not.
So no, that was cool, and yeah, just people's perspective. It was interesting that a lot of people, chose to go to law school after working for a while because they were like, this is something I want to do, or this is something that I can like incorporate what I've been doing in business or real estate or whatever it is into a law practice.
I never thought about that. So what's the Mizzou first year of law school? What's your class size?
It actually got a lot bigger after I left. So my class size, I want to say, was maybe like 90.
Oh, that's smaller than I was thinking. Okay.
So, but like Hallie, my pledge brother, who's about to start his third year in law school, I want to say his class size is like 125, 130.
Holy shit.
So when I was there, we divided it into 2 sections, like section 1 and section 2, and now they do 3 sections. So apparently it was like a resource thing. And
yeah, I get that.
And it used to be bigger. Like when my mom went, it was bigger. And then they kind of downsized. And now it's getting back up. So
do you think that's because I heard this the other day from one of our accounting friends that I guess, I don't want to use the term lowering standards, but I guess, quote, they're lowering standards for, I don't know if it's the accounting programs or the tests or something like that, but I guess there's a shortage of accountants.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the same with law?
No, I think there's no shortage of lawyers.
Really?
My understanding of it, like I kind of said, was a resource thing. Like they had more teachers, they had more space, they were able to they were able to accommodate more students.
Okay.
There was probably a consideration financially of like post-COVID, because COVID happened during pretty much during my second semester of law school. So that kind of changed everything.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that was weird. And that took the school.
Yeah, 2019, 2020, yeah.
Right, so like March of 2020 was, I was, 8 months into law school. So that changed everything. There was a big adjustment period for that. So there probably was a financial aspect of it too from the school, just trying to recoup a little bit of tuition.
So I'm assuming that second semester was almost all online.
Yeah.
Was L2 as well?
2L, they figured it out. It was a huge technology curve. Because they just weren't prepared to be teaching these classes online. And, law school is not like a lot of your 300-person lectures. Like, it's a very involved process a lot of times.
I'm imagining more of like our business labs kind of a thing.
Yeah. So some of the classes were, 45, 50 kids. But there were a lot. I took a lot of 10, 15-person classes in law school. So they just didn't have the infrastructure to be teaching that kind of stuff online. It was also people who had never dealt with Zoom. Like teachers were trying to teach, complicated material to black screens on. So it was interesting. 2L was a good mix of it. I opted to be in person whenever I could, but I took evidence, which is a pretty substantial class you take in law school, and I took that 8 a.m. Tuesday, Thursday online.
Yeah.
So it's just tough. It's tough to be engaged. It's easy to be I'm not going to pay as much attention during this class or whatever it is. So I think they did a really good job, all things considered, but it was tough.
What's the class split? So 90 kids for your respective class. What do you think the split was between you went straight in, kids like that versus what you were talking about, people that made it come back after 5, 10, 20 years in the workforce?
Sure. I want to say 50-50, maybe 60-40 towards people that took time off and then came back. There were a lot of people that did like a year or two and then chose to go to law school, and then some people that had, full careers almost, and then chose to come back. So, yeah, it was probably close to half and half.
Why? So you obviously Mizzou undergrad. Were there other considerations for post grad?
In terms of like where I would go
for
to
law school? Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at a lot of other places. I think ultimately the decision came to like, it was going to be such a big shift for me anyway. That staying somewhere that I was really familiar with took like a big question out of it.
That's fair.
Like one of my my two probably biggest considerations for law school were Loyola Chicago and University of Oregon.
Holy hell.
And both of those would have been like just pretty big life shifts. Like,
yeah.
And I was late to the application cycle because I hadn't chosen that I wanted to do law school by the time that a lot of kids pick.
Okay.
So like I applied late to a lot of places. So Oregon accepted me like a month before I started law school. So I would have had to say yes without ever stepping foot in Eugene.
That's crazy.
Just like figuring that out.
And just restarting anew, basically.
Yeah. So, and I mean, a big consideration for where you go to law school is definitely where you want to practice. Because you're probably going to take that bar exam.
Okay.
So, and people don't. Like, there were people in my class that only took Illinois, and people in my class that, chose to go take the Texas bar or whatever it is. But I knew that I would want to be in St. Louis, so that was kind of never, it just was logically the best choice. And you get, like, in-state tuition because it's a state, so, like, all that applies still.
So with that, and I was thinking about this earlier today, like when I talked to Charlie Hirth, you picking law school and like what you want to practice, like, is there a specialty that Mizzou has versus like Oregon versus Loyola?
Yeah, there are. A lot of times the school will just be like, this is something that we emphasize. So like Oregon, like geographically where it's located, makes sense that they're pretty big in like environmental law.
Okay.
So that kind of thing factors into it, like SLU law, kind of their like, I don't want to say like shtick, but something they advertise a lot is like medical law, medical malpractice law, stuff like that.
That's what I was getting at.
Mizzou's like big thing that they advocate for a lot is
advocate's a good word for it.
Like ADR, which is alternative dispute resolution.
What's that?
So it's kind of like an emphasis in like how you like like you've heard of mediation, arbitration, stuff like that. So they have a lot of like more specialized classes towards alternative dispute resolution, which is something I do a lot as a litigator.
Okay.
So like mediation and arbitration can just make your life easier. It can help settle cases that shouldn't go to trial just because of the massive cost expense.
Yeah, I'm following.
It's a good way to still, achieve like it's kind of like if neither of the parties are really happy with the outcome, then it was probably a good mediation.
Yeah,
there's got to be a compromise.
Yeah, so. If people are both pissed off, then you probably did well.
Yeah, and you had your bet a little bit with going to trial because, I mean, even if it's a bench trial, at the end of the day, like the law applies, but it is the judge.
I've always thought that's crazy. That's so much faith in one person.
It is, but they're all, I mean, you go through so much school. Most of them have all practiced law at one point. Like that's pretty much a given that they've all, been at a firm or done public defender work or something like that. And there are appeals processes and stuff like that. Like you can, in state court, you can appeal any decision that gets made. It's going to cost you money and you might not have a ground for it, but it is a lot of faith, but there's so much taken into consideration throughout it, and you do so much work, and the judges do so much legwork with the cases that, they have a pretty good grasp of what's going on. So
going into it all, how do you say it? 1L? L1?
1L, yeah.
1L. So deciding going into it, 1L, 2L, 3L, what's something you wish you knew? Or are even more prepared for?
I think that this might sound like counterintuitive advice, but I wish that I was just so like nervous And I felt like I compared myself a lot to other people. Like, there were a lot of brilliant people in my law school class.
Easy to do.
And I felt like the whole time I was like, I'm the only person that's not understanding this kind of thing.
You know, like, head. Yeah.
It's like, you know, everyone else is, you know, answering these questions during class, and they're, you know, they all sound like they know what they're talking about. And, you know, I'm one of the people that's asking questions in office hours and stuff like that. So I wish that I had kind of taken, I guess, what everyone else was doing with a grain of salt. And I think so many people look to the older law school students for advice, you know, like, so like a huge thing that people talk about in law school is outlining. So like every day in most classes, you're getting assigned cases, and, you know, you're looking at the law, you're looking at what the holding of the case was. A lot of stuff is like, this case happened, and then this case happened that overruled it, and this case happened. So a lot of it is like learning the history of the law, like how, like where the law started and how it got to here. But people look to other people for like, you know, how should I take notes? How should I, you know, be outlining these cases? What should I be doing in my free time and all that kind of stuff? And I think it is just a process that you have to figure out what works for you.
I feel that, yeah.
I think one of the reasons that it's so stressful, though, is a lot of classes you take are only your final grade. So you'll go to class all semester.
Oh, shit.
And there were some classes that I took that I had like, you know, 10% participation, which is like you show up to class.
Yeah.
And the other 90% is like your final exam.
Holy hell.
So that scares people. Like, that's a very daunting.
That would scare me.
But I always kind of hesitate to say this, but like, it's almost hard to fail a law school class because of the curve. Like, you have to really,
right.
Don't get me wrong, like, you don't want to be at the bottom by any means, but
they have to.
Yeah, I mean, you have to.
I have a feeling the tests are impossible.
Yeah, and like, you know, a lot of it's like essay fact patterns, so it'll be, you know, if you wrote a perfect essay, you're getting 200 points, and the best essay in my class might get 130 of the, you know, checks, right, of what you're going through. So, I mean, no one's going to capture all the law.
Right, right.
I also think there's a huge emphasis in law school of like being right, and
yeah,
it's not like important,
okay,
which is also seems counterintuitive, but it's so much like your answer is better if you logic your answer well, but you come to the wrong conclusion, versus like you don't know why the answer is right, but you got the answer right. So a lot of it is like, how you build it, how you get to that answer,
making it make sense.
Right, not
to me, you making it make sense to me, whether it's the right thing or not.
Right, and it's not just like, here the answer is B type of thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is just like logic and reasoning, and like, you know, understanding why the courts ruled the way they did, and can you know, logic the same way. Like, I wrote this will still haunt me forever a little bit, but
keep this close.
I wrote during my 1L year, one of my contracts exams, there's two different bodies of contracts law. One of them is governs what they refer to as like goods movable at the time of sale. So like when you're selling a product, like, you know, a bottle of whiskey or whatever it is. And I answered an entire third of my contracts exam based on what I thought was a good movable at the time of sale, and really it was a service being provided. Ooh. It was like cabinets that were being built in this law school hypothetical. And I answered the entire question on the wrong body of law. But I still got a lot of, like, I went and talked to my teacher about it, and she was like, yeah, this wasn't what the answer was supposed to be. But I still got a lot of points on it because I logicked the answer.
Right, you're making points.
I reasoned.
Yeah, okay.
So a lot of people just want to be right in law school, but it really is like how you get there.
That's an interesting way of putting that. Because a lot of it is like literature and like semantics and understanding like the words that are being said.
Yeah.
Because they can be contorted in any which way, which I didn't come to that conclusion, like in how I'm in real estate and like sales contracts. And like the first paragraph or two is just outlining, like in my head, I was like, yeah, no shit, that's what that means. Right. But like you have to declare what lessor lessee means, or else someone has no idea what you're talking about.
Right. And yeah, when you leave like ambiguity in the contract, then, and like,
then you go to court.
Right. Yeah. You end up going to court. And something that I have to like step outside of sometimes is like, you've done, you know, hundreds of deals that have gone fine and there's been no issues, even if like there could have been an issue. You know, people are reasonable a lot of the times, and like you come to understandings.
Amendments are my best friend.
But I only get it when it goes to shit.
Yeah.
So I have like a skeptical view of, like, I was talking to someone the other day who's a month-to-month tenant, and they're like, yeah, you know, my landlord's cool and it's no big deal. You know, we're just kind of, you know, we're going to talk about it when
right.
Like that, like gives me like a cold sweat a little bit because I've seen the worst case scenario.
That would go to shit pretty quickly.
Right. So I think that's one thing that it is a precise endeavor, as they say in Suits, which is my number one asked question about law school. Have you seen Suits?
Have you seen Suits?
I have seen some of it. I just got kind of, to me, Suits reminded me of like House. I don't know if you've watched House, but it's just like.
Is that the hospital show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just like, one, it's just not real. I mean.
Okay, so that was my follow-up.
It's not how, in my opinion, how like corporate law
I always see Reels, TikToks of it, and I'm like, it doesn't feel.
My biggest thing with it is like, well, one, the premise of the show is like he never actually goes to law school and he just like lucks into.
Yeah.
But
he like passed the bar off of memorization or something
because of like how you register with the state, which I know is like a no fun answer to that, but like,
boo!
Yeah, it just never would have.
That sucks.
He would never have gotten off the ground with that. Like you get a bar number.
Oh my god!
So like none of that would have worked. But the number of like ethical violations that again is like a boring answer, but like it's like you can't do this shit.
Right. I mean, it's a glorification of it.
But there, in one of the early seasons, he does say like, you must be precise in the law because the law is a precise endeavor. And it really is. Like, you know, the way you write things and the way that, you know, you go about pleading different things can bite you in the butt if you don't, if you aren't, you know, particular about it or you aren't engaged, which I think is one of the big benefits of working for like a firm too. Like, there's a lot of, I mean, now there's not as much oversight. Like, you know, I can do a lot, or I send stuff to people that they're like, cool, send it.
Now that you're 2 years in.
Yeah. But there's so much oversight and there's such a, like, there is just a great opportunity to be a sponge from people. And, you know, you learn from people who have been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's it's an interesting practice.
Yeah, from what I've heard from you, it sounds like it. Did you watch the show with Jake Gyllenhaal on Presumed Innocent?
No, I read I think we talked about that.
You read the book?
Yeah, it's a John Grisham novel, but I need to watch the show. People love it.
So the book, how, like with that Suits conversation,
yeah,
is it portrayed accurately?
Yeah, I would say more so. He was an attorney, I believe. I'm pretty sure John Grisham was.
Okay.
But I don't do criminal law, so that's kind of, you know, it is a little bit different, but.
Oh, he was in Missouri State. Wow, yeah. He was on the Mississippi House of Representatives.
Okay.
Known for his best-selling legal thrillers.
Yeah.
So, okay, there you go.
So I think
again, glorified probably.
There is going to always be like a sense of embellishment to it and like, you know, is this really going to happen? But it's definitely written in a way that it's believable. They are good though. They were really popular. Like my mom loves those books.
It seems 92, 03, 89, 91.
Yeah.
The first article. Do you know anything about this? John Grisham on death row prisoner. Texas is about to execute an innocent man.
No, I don't.
I haven't heard anything. It was just the first thing there.
I've actually never seen him.
He looks like a lawyer. There's no crime, says author, about Robert Robertson, fake name, who was convicted of murder based on discredited science. Interesting.
Probably some shitty old way that they tried to DNA test people or something. Yeah, the death penalty thing is really interesting and honestly something I'm still pretty surprised that we have.
It's wild. So this says, should his death by legal injection go ahead, he would be the first person in the U.S. executed on the basis of shaken baby syndrome, a medical hypothesis from the 70s that has been widely debunked as a form of junk science.
Interesting.
Wow. I'm not going to read all this right now.
Yeah, he must have killed his kid.
I guess some shit like that,
or they must have alleged that he killed his kid. That's awful. But yeah, that is one of those like things you hear your like mom talk about.
Yeah, dude, this is like some Dateline stuff. Awesome. So I'm assuming that a lot of law school. So well, you majored in English, right?
English and psychology.
That's right. I wanted to get into that. So was your undergrad super like reading literature based?
Yeah.
Was law school?
Yeah.
Like
Law
that's what I'm
school's,
imagining.
Like, mostly reading.
That's what yeah. Like breaking.
There's a good amount of writing. Like you do a lot of legal writing. You learn how to do like citations and stuff, which actually really sucked because I learned how to do it in like for English, and you cite stuff totally differently for like law citations.
What was the English citation style? Did you have to do for papers in high school?
Oh my gosh, the APA.
Yeah, that shit pissed me off so much.
Yeah.
I'd have like the name and like the website backed up. Like that's 4 points off. Like eat my ass, dude. I showed you where I got it from.
Yeah, you can find it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, so I learned all of that, and I knew how to do that well, and then I had to relearn all of it, like how to do actual legal citations, which is a bitch. But no, it is a ton of reading, and I think that's one of the. And they say like, I don't know how you really gauge this, but they say that like legal reading is like the highest level of like literary like comprehension.
Yeah,
like
for
the
sure.
highest like level of difficulty.
I would agree with that. Just from a basic contract, sales contract, I would agree with that.
Well, and like some of it, and like a lot of it, like we were reading cases from like the 1800s sometimes because you'd learn, and you're like,
because that's where it started.
Who the fuck wrote like this? Like, you're like, really? Like, did anyone understand this?
No wonder this shit went on for 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a lot of reading. Undergrad was very reading heavy, but it was stuff that I was probably objectively more interested in reading. So
that's fair. 'Cause I'm sure there's a sign, but you probably got to pick here and there to apply to said course.
What do you mean?
Like you got to pick what you could read in some situations for undergrad.
Yeah, I would say it was mostly like class choices.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so like you pick like an English emphasis, and then kind of go from there. So
with that and leading up to all of post-grad, and now you're 2 years in the same tone of what you wish you would have focused on more, what do you wish they emphasized more for you to be able to apply to your day-to-day now?
Law school is nothing like practicing law.
School is nothing like real life. And none of it is.
I mean, there are definitely times where I'm like, oh, I remember like reading this contracts case about this niche situation, but like, and there are classes you can take. Like, I never took trial prep or like trial advocacy in law school. It was a class that filled up a lot because like everyone who litigated wanted to take it, and it was something that I was kind of like, I'll figure this out at the job, kind of thing. But practicing at a law firm is just nothing like law school. Law school is just reading and research, and then you might have like oral arguments and stuff like that. Like I took a patent law class, and we did like a mock appellate court argument.
Yeah.
So if you appeal a state court case and you go to like an appellate court, you do it really is a crazy concept, but the judges all get briefed on, what you're going to be arguing and stuff like that. And there are 3 judges that are your appellate judge, and you have what they call appellate argument, and you basically get like 10 minutes.
Holy shit.
And it's like pitch your case.
Wow.
And
like a Shark Tank.
It is.
Give us what you got.
And it's crazy because like you have to get it out. Like you have to get out, and like they have a background, so you're not like really in depth explaining.
You don't have to go from day one.
But you have to get this argument out. But they can just ask you questions the whole time, so you can get totally derailed trying to explain this niche point that the judge just doesn't wrap their mind around or like needs clarification on. But you've got like the basis of your case that you're trying to spit out in the 10 minutes too, and you can't just ignore them. Like, so you do that, and then one of the 3 judges writes their opinion.
Whoa.
And like that's how, and there's a lot of prep and like a lot of document work that goes in, well before that.
But still.
And you're already, if you're appealing a case, you're probably at least a couple years into it, but It's a crazy process.
I'm assuming that's probably weeks of effort and consolidation into that 10 minutes.
Oh, months.
Yeah.
Because it's so hot, like, here's your shot.
Right.
You know, it's so, like, high stakes.
Is that legit, you have 10 minutes? Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say it's like, I think it's 12 minutes, and if you are first, you can choose how you allocate your time, but I think most people do 10 minutes, and then the other side goes for 10 to 12, and then you get 2 minutes of, like, rebuttal, or vice versa.
Good Lord.
But it really is, like, and it's, like, the fastest 10 minutes you'll ever have. So I did, like, a mock one of those in undergrad over, like, defending a patent, which was really cool because they had real judges come in from, like, who practiced in Missouri, and, like,
That's cool, like, real practice.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So, like, you do some stuff like that, but a lot of it is just reading. But there's so many steps throughout the litigation process that they don't teach you about. Like, discovery is a huge part of, like, every single case that you litigate. But, like, I didn't know what it was until someone was like, draft these discovery documents. And
so for those listening, explain.
So
I'm assuming asking questions, going through documents, clarifying things.
So you and I are engaged in a litigation, let's say over a contract dispute.
Okay.
So I can ask you what are called requests for production, and then I can ask you interrogatories. Requests for production are, I say, Brittany's your real estate agent, and I say, I want any and all communications between you and Brittany Burnett related to the sale of the property. And then I can say, I want any and all photographs that you have from X date to now regarding the property. And so you go through and you have to kind of craft these in a way that they can't be too broad or else they'll object to them, because you can object and say, like, I'm not giving you that. Or I say, I want any and all text between you and your mom. And you go, piss off.
Yeah,
I'm not giving you that. That's irrelevant.
Right.
So, and there's this whole strand of objections. And then you can ask interrogatories. Interrogatories are basically questions, but you have to craft them in a way that they're not so narrow that you can dodge the answer by giving a really narrow interpretation of the question, but they're not so broad that I'm going to object to it. And interrogatories are sworn statements. So when you submit interrogatories, you sign an affidavit saying, to the best of my knowledge, all of this was true. Yeah. I knew nothing about that in law school, but that's how we get all of our documents to then, prepare our case for, litigation.
What do you say, interrogatory?
Interrogatories.
That's got to be a skill in itself.
It is. There are books on how you write interrogatories.
Crafting said question, said sentence, whatever.
And it's something that I've gotten, way better at over the 2 years, because someone will go, hey, take a shot at this, and I'll draft them, and they're like, no. Like, yeah, we're not using
You thought, buddy.
But I had a partner one time, probably 5 or 6 months in, when they start being like, you actually try this. And then, and he sat down with me over these interrogatories, and he, pretty much rewrote everything I did. And I still get some really brutal red lines. But he sat down with me, and he was like, I'm going to explain to you kind of like the point of interrogatory. Like, what are we really trying to get at here? And what is the point of them? So
give me an example of one. Like, in that exact example you were just showing, give us all these documents based on the sale of this property. Yeah. What would be an example of an interrogatory?
So I would say identify with specificity anyone that has any information of this litigation. Would be like a really general one.
Okay.
And then there's always one about like expert witnesses. So I'd say like identify any and all expert witnesses that you intend to call at trial, and provide any documents that would, supplement his responses or something like that, or his expert report or something like that. So you can ask,
holy shit.
Yeah, or like you can say something like let's say we're over on having like a boundary dispute or something like that, and I could say, identify with specificity all reasons that you believe that your property line is at X, and then you can go in and you can ask about the petition. So you can say, identify all facts that support your contention that, you put the fence in the wrong place, as you stated in paragraph 20 of your petition, stuff like that. And the point is, really, a big part of the interrogatories is locking people into answers. So then if I'm in a deposition or you're on the stand during trial.
Oh, because they swear by these.
Yeah, because they're sworn statements. So then if you tell me X in your interrogatory and then you try to walk back your story on the stand, I can go, and then you use that to impeach them.
I see.
So I say, well,
you said this.
Yeah, what about this answer that you gave me? It's a little different. So which one is it? Are you lying on the stand now, or are you?
God, I'm already getting stressed out.
I know, and you're like, did you lie in your interrogatory, or are you lying on the stand now?
Oh my God.
So it's a way to impeach people. It's a way to lock people into a story.
Okay.
And they help you craft your,
right,
litigation defense or how you're gonna go about it.
And so you just said you have a partner that helped you with that. How, do you read those books? How do you get better at those?
No, another benefit of working at like a bigger firm is that I don't draft almost anything from scratch. So
okay, yeah.
Now I'm at the point where if I'm doing interrogatories and discovery requests over a property dispute, I'll go back to a case where I drafted them.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at a lot of things like if a partner that I haven't done a lot of work for asks me to do something like that, I'll go into our document system and I'll find interrogatories for a case that they worked on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see and people have niches and a lot of edits that I get are just stylistic or just, how people like things written and stuff like that. So partners have specific ways that they want stuff drafted or
to appeal to me, whatever, to get out what you think would get out of me.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and really my job is to make your job easy. I am just a conduit in some ways to make your life easier.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something they tell you at the beginning. And I would imagine that a lot of people who start out at firms like young lawyers get told this, but you're told to kind of treat your partners as your clients.
Oh, okay.
So really my life is to
it's
to make your life easier. And if I'm making your life harder, then I'm doing a really bad job.
Right, you're just making a shit show of everything.
Exactly. So.
Okay, so at the mentor, when you say partner, are you talking partner at the firm?
Yeah.
Okay, so partner/mentor.
I say partner just because.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a partner on a case.
Right.
So there might be multiple. I've done some where you have big cases that two shareholders are on,
mm-hmm.
or you might just have a second year partner who's overseeing a smaller case or something like that.
So that's going to help clarify this next with how do you balance your responsibility of representation and professionalism with also being new and you're 2 years in, but you have to you're part of this case, whatever, you're representing whomever on it. How do you balance that one? And what's your plan of attack with that? Does that make sense?
No, what do you mean?
So you're brought in on a case and there's a partner on it.
Sure.
But you're doing all this work and you're 2 years in. So you're I think this is how we go. How do you balance that with also trying to be as professional as possible about it?
Yeah. I think the personality of the person plays a lot into it.
Person as in you?
No, to the partner.
Okay.
And me, but I think
okay.
You learn how people interact. So I have a partner that I do a lot of cases with, and if we have a court date in a couple days and it's 9:00 at night, I'll just text her and be like, hey, which one of us is covering this?
Okay.
That kind of thing. You learn how people operate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is an openness to, ideas or maybe a little bit of, I don't even want to say devil's advocate, but you can challenge some things and say well, what about this approach? Or what if we did this? It's kind of like the parent card though. You can just say we're doing this. And you're like, yep, we are.
Sounds
good.
And
that's how we're going to go. So, but I think there is a lot of mutual respect. You might have been practicing for 20 years and, you're obviously higher on the totem pole, but I went to law school, I've practiced for a couple years, and there is a level of respect for, my opinion of how things should go too. So I don't think balancing the professionalism is hard. I think there is always a professional tone to everything, but at the same time, there's a familiarity, and everyone that I work for knows me, and I know them. I'm not some random associate who they've never talked to, and now I'm presenting them some assignment. So I think there's an understanding of personalities, and you kind of just got to read the room.
That's what I do now in my new job. you call him my boss. I'd more so give him the term like my leader.
Yeah.
Like he's a managing director. He leads my team. Yeah, he's my boss, but he doesn't tell me what to do. Like he's not checking to make sure I'm doing shit. Like everything goes through him. But I do lean on him as more of like a leader / like mentor kind of position.
Sure.
Because like in like serious conversations and like deals, it's like, you know, I'm doing well, but it's like, hey, I'm only a few years into this. How would you handle this? And there's sometimes where like he'll be like, hey, I got it. I'll draft up this email. I'll forward it to you. You send it on over. I'm like, fucking word.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. And like, I don't want to say I put complete faith in it sometimes, but it is so nice having that like, yeah, sure, call
there's a backstop.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And like you have the backboards. It's like something's going to help me with this one.
Right. Oh, I see situations all of the time that I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Dude, I have no fucking clue what this guy just said.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, I see some just like, I mean, obviously I don't practice criminal law, but which I think is where a lot of the kind of wild west shit goes on. But I see stuff that I'm like, you did what?
Dude.
It's crazy.
My mom's old neighbor, I don't know how much, you should probably stop me when I might be saying too much. Someone that used to live in my mom.
You have no duty to keep anything.
Oh, yeah, I guess the case is probably over now. I couldn't even tell you.
It's public. Anything that, I mean, a lot of this stuff is on CaseNet, which people also don't realize is like.
Is that free or do they pay for that?
No, it's free. I have like so I can see stuff that you can't see on it.
Say I'm like a realtor, I can see shit that you can't see.
Yeah, but no, case and actually, within the last, I want to say, within the last 2 years, maybe the last year and a half, the Missouri Supreme Court has put in more regulations on redactions for personal information, like lawsuits that involve minors and stuff like that, because CaseNet is becoming more open to the public.
As
so
in, like,
granting greater access.
As in, like, more things need to be redacted from what's put onto it.
Yeah, then there's stricter rules about what you need to, how you, like, black stuff out. And so, like, if I'm submitting a case with, like, confidential information, I'll basically send the court both. And then you send them, like, a redaction sheet. It's like, here's what this stuff actually says. Mm-hmm. And then, like, you can see the redacted version, and you'll see black boxes for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But the court can see it all. And I can see it if I'm entered on the case.
Got you.
But I can't see, like, other people's redacted documents and stuff like that. So if I'm entered on a case, like, I can see all the secure documents on it.
Yeah, okay.
Because I probably wrote them or filed them. But so CaseNet is becoming even more open to the public now. And I guess they're trying to encourage greater transparency with stuff like that.
Fair. Britt's mom, she uses CaseNet all the time. She'll run anyone and everyone on CaseNet.
Oh, I've looked up everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's the same, like, if you can, it's like just kind of fun to see what pops up. And it's like, oh, damn, they did what now?
Yeah, I've had some interesting, like, I'm going to keep that one to myself.
That's fair. Some things are better left unsaid. That's what, there was, one of my mom's someone lived on her street. I want to say he was a public defendant.
Like he was an attorney?
Yeah. Criminal defendant.
Sure. Yeah. Most public defenders are. So like when they say like if you can't afford an attorney, you'll be provided one. That's what a public defender is
and I was
someone who works for the state.
I was basically being this guy's taxi driver for the day.
Yeah.
I was supposed to drive him to and from Kansas City in one day. He was going to pay me. And I was like, yeah, fuck it. Like, this was like summer in college or whatever. I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll do it. Like 20 minutes into the drive, we didn't have to go. So I basically just drove him to get his dry cleaning and then drove him home. But he was like, you want to hear about my job? I was like, fuck yeah, I do. And he gave me the spiel on the case that he was prepping for. And so we have it might have been Jackson County.
Okay.
Is that in Kansas City?
No, Jackson's south.
Something, whatever, fucking some county out in KC. He was defending a guy on trial for murder. It was like a double murder, I guess double homicide. And he was like giving me the nuts and bolts of this case. And he was like, so this guy, and while we were in the fucking car, while he was telling me the story, one of his other, I guess, quote, clients called him. He's like, hey, man, I just got pulled over with a gun in the car. He's like, you have a fucking gun in the car? He's like, yeah. He's like, you're on probation. He's like, yeah, it's my brother's gun. I was like, oh, my God, dude, what am I listening to? But anyways, this case, so this guy who's supposed to be defending or whatever, there was a dead body found on this property, this farm, whatever, with a bullet hole in the head. And they confirmed, like, what bullet it was. And they found the gun on the property. And while they were, like, you know, going, they couldn't find, no one was home on the property. So, like, well, we think it's this guy. They found the guy. Like, well, he's been gone the past 2 months. Was it him? One of the neighbors, I guess is a meth head, found him, took him into custody. And then on that meth head's property, found another body wrapped up in a tarp.
Jesus.
Yeah, and also had a bullet hole in his head. And I was like, where the fuck is this going? And then he, like, went back to the gun that was basically confirmed to be the gun. And then he was like, but his fingerprints weren't on it. And I was like, oh, okay, he definitely killed those people. And he was like, yeah, I got to defend this. I'm like, good luck, man.
No fingerprints.
Exactly. I was like, this is insane. This is what I'm driving you to. He's like, yeah, man, this is my job. And I was like, motherfucker.
Well, and his job really is, can I, in any way that I can, introduce an inkling of a doubt.
Right, exactly. That's what all presumed innocent was about. He was like, I don't have to be innocent. There has to be doubt in the case.
You have to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Which is nuts.
It's nuts, but
that's
when you start moving the line, you then see, like, you know, and so many people get put are wrongfully convicted.
Well, that's what that death penalty thing was saying.
Well, and that's that's why I'm, like, personally not. Well, one, like, my kind of thought on it is, like, I don't think that the judicial system should be allowed to do anything they can't undo.
Oh.
It's kind of my, like...
That's a good way of putting it.
You can put someone in jail and you can take them out and you can pay them a lot of money.
Like for the people that are in jail for weed from the 80s.
Yeah, and, like, you've still fucked their life for petty crime and whatever.
But you can pardon it, they can be out of there, whatever.
Right, but, I mean, you kill someone, like...
They're dead.
They're dead. Yeah, I mean, it's a very... And I think one of the most interesting conversations I had with the professor in law school was... He taught my criminal law class, but he also taught a death penalty class, which people loved. And when he was a young lawyer, he clerked for the Supreme Court of New Jersey, and he exclusively handled death penalty cases.
Whoa. And
so I asked him, I was like, you know, what was your opinion of the death penalty going into this, and how did you leave it? And he was basically, in summation, was like, it is arbitrary who gets death penalties. And there's a you know, very dark and, I mean, obviously there's a very dark racial history in the United States anyway, but there's a very long line of history of people getting death penalties, especially in southern states, like people of color. And I'm probably butchering the statistic or something, but the Supreme Court of the United States has taken steps so like now, if you just murder somebody cold blood, even if you're a death penalty state, you can't get a death penalty.
Oh, really?
You have to commit a murder with an accompanying felony. So, like, if I murder you and then I steal your car, subject to the death penalty. Grand larceny. Yeah. So,
whoa.
But basically, they've taken steps to make it more difficult for juries to impose the death penalty on people.
Okay.
But it was something like, and again, someone can Google it. I'm probably off on it, but it was something like before 1960, if you were a person of color who committed a offense that was subject to the death penalty, you had a 1 in 3 chance of getting death penalty.
Holy fuck.
And if you were a white person committing the same crime, or I think it was a person of color who committed a crime against a white person, you had a 1 in 3 chance of getting it. Whoa. And if you were a white person who committed the same crime, it was 1 in 25. It was bad.
Whoa.
And a lot of people, a lot of these, you had, 3,000 person towns in Texas who are a jury of your peers deciding what a person of color is. If
you and me, that was it. Right.
And so the Supreme Court has taken steps to try to mitigate the like recklessness that the death penalty has been given. But
That's nuts.
yeah, I mean, so
Do you know how many states have the death penalty?
I don't. It's dropped. There's also, I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say maybe 15.
Okay.
20.
My guess was 10.
But there's a good amount of states that have the death penalty and I think California is one that technically you can even still be given the death penalty, but you'll die in jail.
Because you have 100 years or something.
They won't death penalty. They won't kill you. And so there's a lot of states that
they're on death row for 95 years.
That have people on death row, but they haven't actually given someone the death penalty in, 30 years, 40 years, something like that. So
I always do see that. I occasionally, Google News is, outside of Twitter. I love just Google News, what's going on.
Right.
And, randomly it'll say, I don't know the states, but Indiana, someone's on, is up for death penalty the first time in 57 years. I'm like, well, what's the deal with this guy? Right. And it's not like I search him up. It's not like he's a serial killer or anything. It's like some shit like you just said. It was a hit and run, and he stole the car. And I was like, that got the death penalty?
He was, drunk driving.
Yeah. Which, I'm not...
No, it's wrong, but...
Yeah. I was like, damn,
it's hard.
There's, way worse people out there.
It's hard to, it's a weird situation to be like, this crime's worse than the other crime, but also, some crimes are worse than others. We can acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But, if someone steals my golf clubs out of the back of my car, it's technically grand larceny.
And you should be killed.
Yeah.
He's got a new driver.
That's when I take justice into my own hands.
Yes, exactly. What would you say the 2 years in now? So, easy example, Hallie. For people just now getting into it, what do you think the biggest challenge is for them getting into law? Post grad.
Getting in terms of
whether
finding a job or
any of it, whether it's a job, finding a job, picking maybe the right field, getting acclimated quickly enough, anything.
So a lot of people, you do clerkships during law school, which is basically so I worked for my firm.
I'm assuming it's like an internship.
Yeah. And so I worked for my firm between my second and third year of law school over the summer. I did a 10-week clerkship program.
Yeah.
A lot of those jobs turn into
job offers.
Yeah. So I got essentially offered my job, at the end of my clerkship, more or less. And they said, once you pass the bar and you come back, then, we want you to work here once you start as a young attorney. So a lot of people do get jobs, before they even start their third year of law school, which is a massive weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, I bet.
Really nice.
That's the same tune with most of our accounting friends.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Which I can imagine that kind of stress.
Yeah, if you're at KPMG over the summer, then,
you're probably getting one.
Exactly.
Once you're fucked up, but.
Right. And I mean, there are people, there's no... no one expects you to be, good at it, but it's more of, an effort thing. Are you showing up? Are you trying? Are you interested? And
asking questions, getting clarification, et cetera.
And I think the biggest challenge of getting into it is, people would ask me to do things, and I'd be like, yep. And then I still tell people, if people saw my Google history on my work computer, they think I was the worst lawyer.
It's what's he looking up?
Yeah, it's you don't know what that is, but you don't. I still remember one of the first things that a partner asked me to do when I started working was draft a golden rule letter. And a golden rule letter is basically an informal request to opposing counsel to compel discovery.
Okay.
So you objected to a bunch of my discovery requests like we talked about earlier, and you basically just told me to pound sand. And I'll send you a formal letter that's hey, man, you got to send us this shit. And a big part of that is because the court is big on not wasting judicial resources, so they ask parties to make a good faith effort before you file a motion to compel, which is, hey, court, here's our discovery requests. We asked him nicely to send this shit. He didn't send this shit. Now we're asking you to tell him he has to send this stuff. So, but he was draft a golden rule letter, and I was like, yeah, of course.
What's a golden rule letter?
Literally. I was like, what is a golden rule letter? And then I go into our document system and I type in golden rule letter. And and there's you can Boolean search it, and, you can look up golden rule letter who was in the partner that drafted it. Or now I can go in and I'll just type in golden rule letter and my own initials and pull up all the ones that I've drafted. But I think just asking questions and I told, like, we had a new associate just start a couple weeks ago, and his office is next to mine. And I know him, and really nice kid because he clerked over the summer too, and his dad's at the firm. And, I was like, feel free to ask me questions, and you're welcome to ask me questions that you're afraid you'd like to ask other people. Because there are some questions that I'm like, I should probably know this. But, and, like, I can ask another associate and not look like an idiot as much as if I ask a partner who's like, really?
Would you just ask?
Yeah. I want to pretend you didn't ask.
I'm going to go to lunch.
So, I think just it's a humbling position to be in because, especially, like, people who go to law school are so, like, they probably did well in undergrad. They're probably used to being, like, one of the more, like, intelligent people in their classes. And, like, you kind of just have to set that aside. And it can be tough. And then the same thing.
Like, humble yourself.
Yeah, and then you make your way through law school, and then you're a 3L who knows everything about everything in law school, and the 1Ls are, like, an envy of you and think that you're a god, and then you show up to the firm, and you're bottom of the totem pole.
Just like that.
You don't know shit about shit.
I mean, it's the same thing, high school to college, then college of the real world. It's like, hey, buddy, get checked. Get checked now.
100%. So, I think just checking your ego a little bit and not being afraid to look stupid, like,
that's fair.
I say stupid shit at work all the time.
I say that just about life in general, dude. Like, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to make mistakes. Like, everyone, like, no one really knows what they're doing.
Right.
Like, they're all like, how do I do this? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And in any shape of the form of the imagination, like, we're all in the same boat. Whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's you in 5 years, like, me in 5 years, I'm still going to be like, what the fuck do I do here?
Yeah. And no, I come across stuff every day that I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Like, I've never heard of that. Mm-hmm. So and I think that's one of the reasons that I like practicing law so much is, like, how variable my day-to-day is, and that, like, you are a lifelong learner. Like, you're, like, and my dad says that. I mean, my dad's been practicing for, 40-something years, and he learns new stuff.
Well, that's how you have to be successful. If you ever stop learning, that's the day you die.
Right.
It's like, good luck with everything else.
Yeah, and, like, my dad and I have spirited debates about right or wrong, and he plays the trump card on me for sure. And he's like, "No, you're wrong." But yeah, I mean, you have to be willing to engage in that, and you have to be willing to be wrong. Like, if you're not,
oh, that's good. Yeah,
like I pitch ideas or, like,
be willing to be wrong
approaches to cases that I'm like, what if we did this? And people will be like, bad idea. But you have to, but every once in a while people are like, I didn't think about that. Like, that is a good idea. We should do that. So it's a, it is a, oh my God, I'm going to blank on the word, a collaborative environment, and you have to be willing to, put yourself out there a little bit.
I like that. I agree. And I like that. Well said. And going back to, like, challenging and everything, and, like, how you picked Mizzou. You said that you were a little late to the game with applying to law school.
Yeah.
Did you pick English and Psych with the plan to go to law school?
No. So my undergrad plan was to get a PhD in psychology.
Interesting.
Long term.
Okay.
And I kind of pivoted at the last minute. I think that one of my biggest considerations was just the time, because of the way that, so, like, especially in psychology, you kind of just start picking what you want to take. And, like, you can pick an emphasis, but, like, I don't, like, none of my transcripts have an official emphasis or something like that. Like,
yeah, I got you.
I just kind of started taking classes that I thought were interesting. And so that kind of led to me taking, like, mostly neuroscience classes at the end of college. And when I started, like, really digging into, what a PhD in neuroscience looks like, you're talking about 7 or 8 years and a dissertation. And I just felt like I could achieve a lot of what I wanted to achieve by going to law school. And you can always go back to school, and a nice thing about having a law degree is you get a lot of instant credibility, even if you don't practice law. So, I mean, there are a ton of jobs that I could do that don't involve me practicing law, but, I'm a good candidate for, just because, like, I can critically think, I can write, I can.
Because you technically have a doctorate in law.
Yeah, so I can rationalize through things, and
Right.
There are a lot of law schools that people just can go to and whatever, but yeah, I mean, it's as my mom calls it, a feather in your cap. So.
Absolutely. And like, usually someone has a JD behind their name, they can probably critical think their way out of some shit. And that's, I don't want to say an understated skill, but I feel like that's not a skill that's emphasized enough in day to day.
Yeah, I think it helps me in my day-to-day life all the time.
Mm-hmm. So English and psych, with all the reading and literature and like critical thinking, what was the word you used? Comprehension, like for law. English definitely helped you. I feel like psych would definitely help you in law.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say would you take those back, but do you think that's a good path for getting into law, or would you recommend other ones, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's hard to say because I don't know.
Because you can do any undergrad
Yeah.
and then go to law school.
And actually,
It's not like med school, you need to do bio.
correct. Yeah, like you could apply to law, like anyone can apply to law school. I always think it's funny that law school and med school are like lawyers and doctors are lumped in the same thing. And I was like, I could not have done med school. Med school sounds so much more difficult than law school was.
No way.
It's hard for me to say because I don't know what those other undergrads entailed. I felt very well suited for it.
I would agree. From knowing you, I definitely agree.
A ton of people, and it was stuff that I was interested in undergrad. So like, I wouldn't change it just by the fact that like I loved my English classes. I loved taking those psych classes. It was something that I was always really engaged in, and I felt served me well regardless of kind of my post-grad career. But like, history is really popular. Poli-sci is really popular. English is really popular.
Poli-sci, yeah.
Ironically, there are a lot of undergrad places that offer pre-law like track, and law schools are like, don't do that. Like, we prefer you not.
So what would pre-law entail?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It sounds like and like,
if I had to do 9 business law classes, dude, I'd be like, ugh.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I think it's got to be something like the business law, but to me, it sounds like talking to like law school admins and stuff like that. It sounds like it's just gonna build bad habits. Mm-hmm. And there were definitely some people in my law school class that came in day one and like just thought they knew it all. And I was like, yeah, and it's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like,
again, check yourself.
yeah, you don't need to keep raising your hand.
Yeah.
Like, it's
people. This is fucking
this
worst,
is orientation.
dude.
Like, shut up.
We don't have our dorms yet.
Yeah, but the great part was like law school teachers would be like, no,
shut up, kid.
wrong. They'll be like, oh, good thought. Who else? Like,
Who's the idiot?
yeah, or like, we're not calling on this kid again.
I guess it would probably, like how you were to Oregon, if you plan on getting into environmental law, I guess you'd probably plan out environmental science or something like that.
A lot of those people are engineers.
Oh.
Yeah, so a lot of that is like engineering efficiency and like the law that goes into like, same with like patent law. A lot of them are engineers as well. So yeah, I was like, oh, environmental law sounds super interesting, and I was like, ooh, I can't do that. I don't have an engineering degree.
No thanks.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is not like save the earth.
Hello. So in the same tune then, so you declared English and Psych day one, and then you eventually went to law school. Hindsight, great decision. Let's say there's a freshman right now at Mizzou that's doing business, but he's thinking about he's like, maybe I want to do law school, but he doesn't know what law he wants to practice.
Sure.
How would you advise them to maybe like exploring different practices of law, different categories of law, and like maybe finding out which direction they'd want to go?
Yeah. I'm going to correct something that you said before. I actually chose psychology only.
Okay.
And then just because of how rigorous literature's always been something that's like been a big part of my life. Like to this day, I still read a ton.
That was something that I had later. Was it because me and Noah talked about SLU and like your reading, and like just the emphasis that SLU had as a whole too.
Yeah, it was a huge part of it, and I'm really grateful because it really boosted the reading comprehension skill, and like everyone who leaves SLU learns how to write.
Yeah,
like,
I've noticed that.
And dude, we used to peer review like essays in undergrad, and I was like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing here? But
can these people read?
but I took English classes in undergrad, just like I had the choice to, and I took like some college credit in high school, so I could just like pick some English classes that counted towards my arts and science psychology degree.
Yeah.
And I took a class with a great professor who ended up being the head of the English department when we graduated. So she moved up to, which was an awesome reference for me to have in law school too.
I bet that was incredible coming up with that.
Yeah, and like I took multiple classes with her, but I had, we were maybe like 2 months into the class, and she gave me my paper back, and she was like, "Will you come see me in office hours?" And I was like, "Fuck, she thinks I plagiarized this." That was my only thought, was like, she thinks I cheated on this paper.
Because why else would you be called in?
Yeah, I was like, okay. And this is going to sound like a brag, which is not intended, but I just thought it was interesting. But she was like, hey, like, I looked you up, and she was like, I've really enjoyed reading everything you've written this year. And she was like, you're not an English major. She was like, why aren't you an English major? So, and I was like, I don't know. I just picked like I don't know. Like psychology was interesting. I just picked a degree, and she was like, "You can do both." So I called my mom, and I was like, "Hey, like my English teacher had this conversation with me," and my mom was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome."
Wow, man, shit, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I just signed up.
That's incredible. Means you're a fantastic writer,
and that's how I ended up doing both.
Okay,
but
I didn't know that. Interesting.
I'm trying to think of what you asked about the business law thing.
Well, like picking a field, yeah.
So I think that's really when the importance of the internships throughout law school come into play, because I mean, like, law school is interesting, but like I loved criminal law, but I was like, I'm not practicing this. It's objectively interesting because you're learning about things you already know, like you understand like homicide.
So you can go into law school having no clue.
I had no clue,
and just like, but 1L, you'd be like, okay, because of all this stuff you're doing, and like maybe that internship between 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to go this route now.
So my internship between 1 and 2, which was a little weird because it was COVID. So like probably over half my law school class lost their jobs, which is, I mean, and also like law school kids are the most like.
Oh yeah. June of 2020.
Like panic stricken about anything that goes wrong. And
world's falling apart.
Yeah. It's like, bar the fucking doors. And so I interned at Gibbs Pool and Turner in Jeff City, which I was like fortunate just to get like a job there. But I did a lot of business law stuff, a lot of transactional work, and I was really interested in it to some degree, but I was like, I definitely would like to see what litigation is like. So those are kind of the two, like transactional work and litigation. And the way that I like to describe it to people is like when the transactional work goes south, that's when I get involved, like litigation.
Yeah.
Because if the deal goes great, then I don't ever see it. That's awesome. But so that's kind of, I think, I don't think you should know. I don't think there's any pressure to know what you want to do. But if you come in and you're like, I'm going to law school because I want to be a public defender and I think that I can make the justice system better, then like that's awesome. Yeah. And you should do that. And there are people that know they want to do that kind of, like there were people in my law school class that were like, I'm going to be a public defender or a criminal I'm a criminal defense attorney, and like this is what I want to do.
Better person than me.
And there are people that come in and say that, and then they're like, never mind.
Fuck that.
I don't want to do that. Yeah. So the whole thing is really a huge learning process, and you kind of got to be open to it. And my second my internship after my second year of law school, I worked at the firm I'm at now, and they asked me, they were like, transaction or litigation? I was like, litigation, I guess. And I really liked it. I love going to court. I love, the face-to-face with judges. I like arguing motions. I like the people interaction of it, which is actually one of my fears of getting a PhD in psychology, which no knock to it because people need to do it. But I was always afraid of ending up doing research, which is what a ton of people do. And there are a lot of very research-driven minds, and it makes the world go round. You know, that's how we make scientific discoveries,
Right.
and it's awesome. But I need to be face to face. I need the interaction, and I think that's something that my job is a lot more of than I realize. Is like, at the end of the day, I am providing like a client service.
Yes,
which a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lawyers, but like my client, and like short of something unethical, like if my client really wants to do something, like my job is to talk them out of it if it's a bad idea. But if they really want to do it and it's not illegal and it's fine, like you're paying for it.
Right.
So I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize lawyers are doing, is providing a service to clients.
It is. I mean, yeah.
And like they're paying a dumb amount of money for me to, draft their stuff. So,
get me out of shit.
Yeah. So yeah, if that's the route you want to go, then that's the route you want to go.
I had two thoughts. I already forgot one of them. But one that's really refreshing to hear, because I've always had it in my mind that, like, I don't want to pigeonhole you, but like I've always had it in my mind that like people that are lawyers, people that want to be lawyers, they've wanted to be a lawyer. They had that like they had a beeline for that.
Yeah.
From day, because when I day one at Mizzou, I had no fucking clue what I was gonna do. Didn't know where I was gonna be, and that's refreshing to me to hear. Is it like, because now that I'm thinking about it, with all the paths that you could take with law, business law, I never thought about environmental law, economic law, what you're doing now, litigation, everything, is like really whatever your interest is.
There's a legal area.
You have an avenue for it.
100%.
So it's like, pursue your interest, and if you find out you want to do law, you can still pursue that interest to it.
Yeah.
That's really refreshing for me to hear, because I've always felt like it's like you're going to law school and then you got to figure out which one you're picking.
Right.
It sounds like it's the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, and I mean there are definitely people that know.
Right.
But no, I would say most of my class had no clue what they wanted to do.
That's awesome. That's cool. I mean, dude, that's college, and like how college applies to the real world, and in the day to day and like your job, it really doesn't teach you much. But that's like one thing that I like instill in people younger than me, is like, it's okay. You're 18, dude.
Yeah.
You don't need to know what you're gonna be doing.
Well, and like, I think that about me like now.
Right. Like how you said it earlier, people did careers, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and then came back to school.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. And like I feel like I honestly feel that like in your specific class, that's probably a rarity. I feel like probably most post-grad is, quote, adults that are coming back from something.
Right. No, I think Mizzou had a lot of kids that went straight through. A lot of people that were, like Missouri undergrads. So like we had a lot of SEMO, a lot of Mizzou, a lot of Post State. But yeah, I think it was a good mix of people, and a ton of people, go have full careers. And then I remember talking to my mom about a guy in her law school class who like was a full on like pediatrician for a long time.
Whoa.
And like just came back to go to law school.
Holy shit.
Yeah, at like 50.
To go to med school and then get it. Wow.
Yeah, and he wanted to do medical malpractice law.
I mean, he probably experienced something. He's like, I need to be a part of this.
Right, and he was like, I want to be more informed about this.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's all walks of life. It's, people from all over the country. It was really interesting. So there was a guy in my law school class who so intelligent, really, really nice guy. And he was, I think he's now finished, but he was getting his PhD in chemistry at Mizzou, and purely out of curiosity.
This guy a wizard?
So smart. Like, great guy. Shout out to Hamayun. Awesome dude.
What's up, Hamayun?
And he took a couple law school classes, like, purely out of curiosity. Like, he was just like, and they were like, hey, you've taken enough of these that, like, you don't have to take that many more to get a law degree, too.
Wow.
And he was like, okay. So he was in my, like, 1L orientation class, but he was literally teaching graduate chemistry classes while he was in law school. And pretty sure he finished, if not a year, at least a semester early.
And they're probably top of the class, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I mean, there are incredibly interesting people you meet,
Yeah.
all kinds of, different people in law school. And it was a really cool experience. And people get so bogged down by like the workload and there's like a fear aspect of it, but it was a great experience.
Good.
And I think, like, it was difficult, but it wasn't like, this is ruining my life 24/7.
Right.
I had a lot of fun in law school. Like, we had banger Halloween parties, and
I mean, dude, like,
it was a great time.
It's school is school. Like, it's the hardest day of your life is the hardest day of your life. Like,
Right.
It's not like anything else. It's
Exactly.
not worse than
It was
the
the
fucking
first day of the bar exam.
Yeah, it's not like the worse than the all-nighter you pulled 2 years ago. Like, it's just the same shit.
Yeah.
I want to get back into the psych thing, but something I wrote down when I was thinking about it when we were talking about the golden rule thing, golden letter.
Yeah.
Do you, one, use ChatGPT at all, and two, see AI in the law world at all?
It's an interesting question. It's a big discussion
Could
that's
imagine.
ongoing. I've actually taken a couple. So when you're a lawyer, you take what are called like CLEs, continuing legal education. And it's basically like you have X amount of hours that you have to take of like seminars.
I've got the same shit for real estate to keep my license. Yeah,
Exactly. So you do that kind of stuff. But it's really nice because like there are probably 500 offered throughout the year, so you can kind of pick what's interesting to you. And my firm hosts a lot of them. So
that's cool.
We call them lunch and learns, and like someone comes in and gives us a CLE
and
presentation.
accounts for it.
Yeah, and we get lunch. But I actually have taken 2 on artificial intelligence.
Really?
Yeah, because it is a really popular topic.
And I can, because the weeds you get in with that.
Yeah. There are some interesting stories which you can look up later, or anyone at home can look up later, because they're pretty, you're like, no brains, no headaches. But there are a couple of attorneys who have submitted almost entirely written chat GPT briefs.
Whoa.
One of whom was a New York attorney who, I can't believe didn't get disbarred, submitted a brief that cited exclusively non-existent law.
What the fuck?
Made up case law citations to support points. But the cases didn't exist. And
like hypotheticals from textbooks or something.
Not even.
Wow.
Like fucking
just gave itself
Orban v.
examples.
Cushing.
Right.
Like, literally made shit up. And
that is insane.
And he didn't read it. And he didn't proof
just
it.
Copied and pasted it.
Yeah, he just literally, and he submitted it, and he got brought in for a special hearing, and the judge was like, hey, I can't find any of this case law. And after a couple back and forths, basically admitted that ChatGPT wrote the whole thing, and he didn't double check any of it.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure he just got sanctions from the court, which is just like a fat fine, basically.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, dipshit stuff. Like, that's just crazy.
Well, dude, I mean, I'll get into why I asked, but like, I'll ask it whatever question. Hey, type me a cold email to reach out to this person.
Right.
And it'll spit 4 sentences out, and I'm like, that's clearly not.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta edit that.
Yeah.
It's like, if you give it a glance, you know that something else wrote it.
Sure. So, I mean, I think it's an awesome tool, and I've messed around with it a little bit. Never anything to do with the legal field, but like, it's great that you can ask it to like give you a workout plan, and it will, and like you can edit all of it or whatever. Pretty much my takeaway from all of the like seminars that I've taken on the AI and the law is like, I think that it could get to a point where it's really helpful for like administrative stuff.
That's exactly how I use it.
But especially right now, but I really don't see it. I mean, it would have to take some massive leaps in the near future for it to be viable. But at least right now, the effort that you would have to go through to make sure that it works and that it's correct.
For all the proofreading.
Just fucking write it.
Yeah.
Like, do it yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
So what, so I'll give you an example. I'm doing some deals I'm working on right now. Shit I was seeing is like, I don't know that word. I don't know what they're talking about with this.
Right.
And it was in Kansas City. I was like, what is like this county's like tax situation like with this abatement? And it's like, it's this, and this. As of 2022, it's this. I'm like, okay, sick. That just saved me 30 minutes of Googling. But exactly what you're saying, it's administrative work.
Yeah.
Like I didn't ask it to write me a model or to like respond to this dude and how we're going to model the situation. I was like, just get, like, what am I fucking reading right here?
Sure.
And so in law, like what you say administrative, where do you see it being, whether it's the most impactful or like most useful, whether it's in your day-to-day or like overall? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that I don't even, it's funny that you said it because like I get stuff like that and I'm like, this is what I'm reading tonight. Like it's not really a debate. It's just like, yeah,
go through this.
Yeah, like.
Well, like 40 pages of it was just different, like basically like T12s, like financial statements. I'm like, I'm not breaking these down.
Yeah.
I have better use of my time.
No, that's fair. I mean, like, I wouldn't even trust it that far to summarize things because, especially like, it depends on why I'm reading what I'm reading, but you know, it might be like the 2 sentences that I'm like, there it is. Like, that's what I needed out of the 100-page contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's our hook kind of thing. So, like, I don't trust ChatGPT to find that shit. You know,
That's fair.
I need to read it all.
That's fair.
And the way, I think it was partially just kind of like the way that the, you know, like classes presented it. But I think I only think it can be useful now for like calendar and scheduling work and stuff like that. Like true, like administrative work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think I'd ask it to like write me an email at this point. Can I take like a quick 2?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to pee?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Good in the hood?
Yeah, it'd be so interesting to do this as like a full-time job.
I know.
Just podcast.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to have the resources to get to talk to like such interesting people.
I know. That'd be the goal. It'd be fucking sick.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
You know how, like, I've looked up the stats on that and, like, how it's something. So you're episode 21, I think.
Okay.
You got to sign this. I don't have everyone to sign this.
Okay.
I think you're episode 21. And if you make it to episode 20, it's either 21 or 23. You're technically in the top 1% of podcasters in the world.
That makes sense.
Because it's like 95 only, you know, upload a 5-minute episode or whatever.
There's a lot of white guys with podcasts.
Bingo, dude. It needs to be more expensive. It needs to be way more expensive.
Dude, some of the stuff you see, especially like they're so popular, which it is a great format, but like, well, it's all brain rot, like the 30-second videos. But some of the stuff you see, and I'm like, you shouldn't be allowed to be doing. Like, I'm all for freedom of speech, but like,
have you seen the clip, dude? There's this hilarious. I'm gonna find it real quick. There's this hilarious fucking clip where this guy is like making fun of that exact thing. He's like, "Oh, what a great way to use our platform." This.
Discussion. Yeah. What's the youngest thing you'd go for? Aye, that's an excellent question, Jay. Great way to use our platform. It depends what country I'm in. What? Hey man, then would you wife a chick? Yeah. Yeah. That like her body count is 0. Okay. But the head has been active. Aye, that's an insightful question. Coming like
That's an insightful question.
Jesus Christ.
And then it
Okay,
at the end.
but then I'd also find a chick with experienced books. Combination. Aye, that's hard, G. I didn't know you were this way. You're a smart brother, you know. I'm on, G. For a guy with 3 brain cells, my guy. Imagine what I could do with 4.
For a guy with 3 brain cells, imagine we're gonna do a 4.
Never before asked question. We're ready, G. Which one? Who pays on the first date?
A never before been asked question. Hey, what a fantastic way to use our platform. And I've looked back on some of these episodes. I've re-listened to some of them now, or like the first couple, and like at like the last half hour, I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah. I think our conversation's been pretty.
It's been pretty good.
It's been civilized so far.
We left off with AI. Yeah, I got it. I'm probably gonna cut that.
That's fine.
I'll cut my portion.
No, you can cut it all. Whatever's easiest.
To take a completely different spin on it, I want to get back into the psych thing.
Yeah.
Let's just fuck it. Let's go now. You initially wanted to major in psych. I think psych. So I'm in sales, and like all of sales is psychology. It's reading the other person, understanding the other person, finding what's best for the other person. Yeah. Why did you go psychology, and how do you see its importance? Like, where did that come from for you?
So I think psych was something that was always just interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Did you have psych at SLU?
Yeah, so I took AP Psych in high school.
I didn't have psych at CBC. It's kind of something I took one psych class, maybe 2 psych classes at Mizzou, and that's one thing that I wish I had more intel on.
Yeah, and we had a great and really passionate AP Psych teacher that was really an awesome guy and really, I think, cared about the students a lot. And a lot of SLU teachers did, and it was an overall, like, good learning experience, even though it sucked sometimes. Like, I did more homework in high school than I think I did in college.
Dude, I've heard that from a couple people now.
But
from SLU grads, I should say.
I think that, and I think it's something I'm still interested in doing. But I've always thought that like counseling was something that was really interesting and something I would like doing. I felt like a counselor for a lot of people.
That's fair.
Sans the double entendre that I am a counselor.
Yeah.
But you can't have that. Yeah, I don't know. It was something that I was always interested in. I love engaging with people. I think that I've always had an interest in whatever career I decided to pursue. I knew that I would want it to be like people oriented. But I kind of same thing as you. Like, it sounded interesting, but I came into college just being like, I don't know. Like, I'll figure it out and we'll go the way we go. But I didn't have a concrete plan, so.
And what do you apply the psych? Do you think you still apply to the psych that you took in college now to your day to day?
Oh yeah, 100%.
In what shape?
Well, like I kind of said earlier, I think client services.
Yes.
It is
like what I was just saying, understanding that person.
Yeah, 100%. It's a fine line to walk, especially when you're. Litigation is interesting because it's not a big deal to me anymore, but to a lot of these people who are involved in lawsuits, like, it is the be-all, end-all. It's absorbing their life. They're nervous about it. They want updates about it. And so there's a lot of, like, I don't want to call them delicate conversations, but you have to be tactful in the way that you approach things, in the sense that, one, sometimes I have to be like, that's a bad idea, and we're not going to do that. But I have to make you think that it's a bad idea, not just I tell you it's a bad idea.
Again, the angel on my shoulder, dude. So I look to you for a lot of things.
So there's a lot of conversations you have to have that you're kind of guiding people through your, one, like the knowledge that you've gained over the years that you've practiced, and like you kind of have to implement the idea that this came from you. Like, you understand why we're not going to go this route, not just
from my experience, what I've learned and how I understand it.
And not just your lawyers telling you no.
Yeah.
Because people aren't very, a lot of people don't understand that, like, people don't understand the word no well. They don't accept the word no.
Yeah, it's hard to hear.
It's hard to hear, and, like.
That's why most people drop out of sales.
Your psychology isn't really built to understand no. Like, that's not how we really are programmed. So it's hard to accept it if you don't come to the realization, or you don't understand kind of the method behind the madness, if you will.
Again, the reasoning that you have to come up with.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of, like, dealing with other attorneys, like opposing counsel on matters, and there's tactful ways that you can tell people to piss off without coming across as rude and, staying professional.
Eat shit and live.
Yeah. So I think the psychology applies a lot day to day. And, sometimes you do things and just to make the other side wonder, why.
That's fun.
Like, why,
Were there any psych?
Why are you asking me this question?
Right. What are you trying to get at? What are you trying to dig out of me? Were there any psych classes, whether at SLU or at Mizzou, specifically that made an impact on you or that you remember?
Yeah, I mean, AP Psych was definitely the kind of like the catalyst for my interest in it. I remember.
Pause. Did you take AP Psych because as like a sophomore, junior, you already had an interest in psych, or is it because, hey, you can take this AP class, you should probably do it for college credit?
No, I had an interest in it.
Okay, awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
No, it was something that I thought
Long
was cool.
time.
And the teacher was kind of like notorious at SLU.
For being a good,
for just being a good teacher.
Yeah.
And, shout out Tom Kickham, awesome guy. But so it was something that I was interested in beforehand, and it was kind of one of those like, this is like a fabled teacher at SLU. Like,
if you have the
take a class
opportunity,
with
you
him.
should.
Yeah. So, and then I remember taking a class called Mind, Brain, and Behavior that really started to delve into like the kind of like the psychology of everyday life.
Oh. And
it edged on the neuroscience aspect of it, but it was never too in depth, and it was more. And it was like a 300-person lecture. But I loved my teacher for that too. And
this was at Mizzou.
This is at Mizzou, and she was really engaging and someone that you could. I was like, this is like a lifelong, like passionate woman who cares about teaching, cares about her students, and I think that was the first class in college that I took that I felt like my teacher gave a shit, which was really interesting.
It sticks out.
Yeah, and especially in like a 300-person class, like I'm a number to you, and she just cared a lot. And I thought that was really interesting, and I thought she had a great way of presenting the material in class. And so that one really stuck out to me, and that was kind of like my like signifier that I was on the right track and like doing something that I was truly interested in and wanted to continue to do. And then I took a high-level like neuroscience 2 class that to me got so in the weeds that I was really it's like one of those like when I explain my job to people, it's not interesting, and I get it. I wouldn't expect you to think that what I do is interesting, but it's like anything that you've ever gotten so interested in that you're like, this is so boring, but now that I know so much about it, it has become interesting again. And that's kind of how this class was for me, like really getting into like the nitty gritty of like understanding like where we are in comprehending neuroscience. Because for all of the science that, I mean, obviously, like...
When you say neuroscience, like how the brain works, why the brain's working this way, that way.
The actual science of the brain. And a lot of it's like the physical science of the brain, like, how your synapses change and...
reactions and everything.
Yeah, and that to me was always really interesting, and that kind of like solidified that interest in it for me. So, I think that I had a couple classes, and I think a lot of it was teacher-driven.
Okay, that's cool. I like that because I really respect that, especially with the psych teacher Mizzou, because that speaks a lot to the teacher when a teacher sticks out to you, because that means the teacher's really passionate, they love what they're doing, and they love it so much they want to share it with other people.
Yeah, and
if they're really passionate, they're really good at sharing it with other people.
Yeah,
and that means it was probably a kick-ass class.
And to be like they say that like the sign like a sign of intelligence and understanding is if you can explain a complicated concept simply, and that was what she was doing, was taking very complicated things and teaching them to 19-year-olds.
Right, because psych is just like, this is what we think all of this means. Like,
well, and it is amazing too, like for all of the like incredible technological and like scientific advances that we've made, we really don't understand that much about, like, there's still a lot of mysteries about the brain and how it works.
Well, it's like dreams, consciousness, all of it, reactions, feelings. Like, we don't know what's really going on there.
Yeah.
That's not like pain, but like even then, it's like what's really going on up there? Because we can't replicate it.
Right.
It's impossible to replicate. And as soon as someone dies, it's like we wanted to perform an autopsy. We can't do it on an active brain. It's like we don't know what's all going in there.
Yeah. And it's crazy, like, what we used to think, like, how much we've learned, like, the fact that we used to lobotomize.
Dude, I was about to say the same thing.
It's
You
crazy.
just shove nails up people's nose, and, like, yeah, that'll fix it.
They're like, I don't know, just, like, sever the two hemispheres, and, like, they'll be fine. It's crazy. And like, yeah, he doesn't need his cerebral cortex.
He's all good.
Just cut that shit.
He'll probably be able to drive.
Yeah, exactly. And like, a lot of people did live like that, and it makes you happier, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
They didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah,
but
you don't know what you don't know.
exactly. It was true ignorance is bliss. So, but yeah, the strides that we've made in understanding how the brain works it's amazing. It's amazing that this is very like grandiose, but like it's amazing that we exist and that we function and that our body can do what it does. Mm-hmm. And I would sit here and put whiskey in it, debilitate myself. But no, it's incredible.
That's what, like, back to the AI thing. It's like, oh my God, Terminator's gonna happen soon. It's like, dude, we are like supercomputers, quantum computing, and all that stuff. Like, it is so far removed from the brain, and like how the brain interacts. Like when you blink, it's like what, a millionth of a second or some shit like that, and the brain's like 100x how quickly it's responding. And like quantum computers are the size of a building. Sure, we'll get there in 20 years. People are like, oh my God, it's like, dude, we are not replicating brains anytime soon.
No. I mean, yeah, there's so many differences and, so many ways that we can tell the difference, but it is amazing that we've even made computers that, even in like the 70s, like 80s, like the space, or probably like the 60s, like the space race with the Soviets.
Yeah, 60s, yeah.
And like the way that we like implemented like the IBM and stuff like that to be doing that kind of like large scale calculations. Right. But at that time, that computer was the size of a room.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and then put that into something the size of your head.
Right.
Yeah, no shot in shit, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
And then the whole feelings thing, because like, I get how we could understand reactions, pain, senses, but feelings, and like, because that's the whole conversation. It's like, is the computer alive if it has emotion? Yeah. Like where's the line out of emotion? It's like it can tell us it's feeling something, but how do we know it's feeling something?
Yeah.
And that's where it's like that's a whole nother conversation with the soul and all that shit.
Well, and then there's like, that always makes me think of like Blade Runner.
Yeah.
It's like,
with the hologram chick.
Well, and it's like if you can't tell that you're talking to a computer,
right?
What's the difference?
Right.
Which, I mean, there is a lot of differences still, but it does kind of beg it's interesting. It begs the question.
Right. Which is granted with how much money is being dumped into it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Because if you figure that one out, we're in for something. I'll probably drink more whiskey then.
Well, and then I always laugh at like the movie I, Robot is like 2016 Chicago.
Dude.
Like we've so grossly overestimated our like progress.
Yeah, Blade Runner 2049. You're telling me in 25 years, dude? Are you shitting me? Okay. Spin zone. I'm curious. The psychology thing really interests me, but I love your shirt. One.
Thank you.
And to get into that,
shout out Grailed.
Shout out Grailed. That's Grailed shirt. Is it an old shirt?
Yeah.
Do you shop a lot from there? I've never ordered anything.
Yeah, I do. You kind of got to know what you're looking for.
Fair.
And it's not like I think on something like eBay, you can get a much better sense of like what the market is. But there's people on Grailed that are just like
all way
putting
off
shit on Grailed.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think this shirt was like $10.
Yeah, it's sick. So, that's a sick shirt.
Yeah. And the Dolphins are such a good retro.
Yes, dude, the best.
Like, and just like the availability because so many people like it, and like so many people.
I mean, when was Marino? The 70s, 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s,
70s.
And like that was like he's considered a GOAT, whatever. And that's arguably the best logo in football, and that's where it comes from.
Yeah, I was gonna say when we went the other night to Leicester's, and it gets me going when we wear the throwbacks. Dude,
they're so sick. Yeah, they're so sick.
They're awesome.
I feel like it kind of ties into your interest in psychology and who you are and like how you work, but your eye and like keen for fashion and design. Because I go again to Angel on my shoulder. I go to you with a lot of like. I don't want to say fashion questions, but style questions. And like, and I have really, I don't think I've ever told you, I have a real respect for your eye for interior design.
I appreciate that.
Your apartment now, your old apartment, your Clayton apartment, every time I went there, I was like, God damn it, dude, this looks so good. And like, it was always just you living there. I was like, my place looks like fucking shit. And like, where does that come from? How were you raised that way? Is your mom like a big fashionista? Is like, how do you have that?
No, my mom, shout out to my mom. God bless her.
Yep, sweetest woman.
She is a
mowing the lawn in her cowboy boots.
A jeans, life is good t-shirt and shit kickers all day, every day.
Yep.
No, my mom has a good fashion sense, and my mom has some like, she doesn't care as much day to day, but she's got some like great stuff that she likes. I don't really know. I think it's just always been like a deeper interest. You know, something that we didn't talk about was like I also got a studio art degree.
That was something I want to bring up. I wanted to tie this in for like right, left side of the brain and how you actively still use the art stuff.
Yeah, so I think that's you know, not unfortunately not something that I get to implement as much in my like legal career.
Yeah, sure.
But and that was also part of the reason that I always wanted to do counseling. Like I've always been fascinated by the idea of art therapy. And I think that especially in children, people don't give children enough credit for like understanding what's going on and like how expressive children can be. And I've always thought that art therapy was a really interesting form of like understanding children's expressions, and even if they're not good, it's like you can kind of get at what they're trying to like interpret or like where their brain is at, like, you know, how they're perceiving their situation. And
there are two questions, you know exactly what they're getting at.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that my interest in art has always kind of been the underlying basis for the interior design and stuff like that. And still, like, I still, you know, practice a lot of art.
You took art classes in school at Mizzou, didn't you?
Yeah, I got a degree in studio art.
You have 3 degrees?
Yeah.
3 undergrads? You have 3 bachelors?
No, it's a minor.
Okay.
A studio art minor. So,
wow. Holy shit.
So yeah, that was something that I just kind of like, kind of like my friend in law school, but I just started taking classes because it was interesting and my parents were willing to pay for it. And
I do remember that. You always had like a sketch pad.
Like
yeah.
that big black bag that I would drag around. Yeah. I still have that. I still have that black bag that I drag around. But yeah, it's always something that's, you know, been interesting to me, and something that, like, I like that my apartment is like a good amount of like my own art. And
I've always loved that. I thought that was so cool.
And I, you know, it's still something that I think is just a good practice for me, something I like engaging in, and I think it helps a lot with like my mental headspace. Like it's almost like meditative for me. But I think the fashion and the interior design has derived a lot from that kind of stuff. And but it's also something that I've like taken the time to learn. Like I read a lot of like Architect's Digest and stuff like that. Like,
do you really?
Yeah. Like I try to learn about that kind of stuff, and
just to be in tune with it, know what looks good, what doesn't look good.
Yeah, and I like understand, you know, because there is a lot of psychology to it too. There's a lot of psychology to like what your house looks like,
and like the feel of the room, like, and place this here, and like green. You have a lot of plants, and how plants liven up a room, and all that kind of stuff.
And there's a lot of like health benefits to the plants too. Like, at the end of the day, like they are living organisms that are, you know, putting oxygen in the air, and like they do like there is empirical evidence of like plants creating like a better mental space for your, you know, where you live and stuff. But yeah, I think it's something I've always been interested in and had a desire to know more about. And I think it's helped me a lot. I think that art is like a really good release from me, especially when
sorry. God damn it!
Especially when like you know, like I have a stressful job, and it's something like that I like to be able to step outside of and
need an outlet.
You know, do something for myself. So,
do you have a preferred outlet method? Like to paint, like to draw color. Color.
Yeah, I just print off color.
Bunch of Crayolas in your apartment.
I'm so good with markers. I would say the thing I've done the most is probably draw. like sketching and stuff, a lot of my high school class like emphasis was in watercolor.
Oh, that's cool.
And I have in the last week or so started like seriously oil painting.
Oh, really?
So that's kind of been my next like
That's cool.
endeavor into it. And then like Kelly's also like very artistic and you know, has her own like jewelry brand and stuff like that. So creating jewelry, I think I have something
Nice.
But,
I like that.
yeah, just like making jewelry, and she's like very artistic too. Like we'll just sit on the porch and paint and
That's
stuff
cool.
like that. So it's nice to have something to share with someone. And you know, we do like a Tuesday night dinner, so that's kind of something that we always block off, and like we cook together, and we call it like crafting night. So we might do something separate, like and then we took like a pottery class last month.
Like you paint, she does bracelets, some shit like that.
Yeah, vice versa, whatever it is. But yeah, just like time that we spend together, and
that's cool.
Yeah, you know, exercising that left side of the brain.
I think that's super important because that's like something that's been instilled with me forever with my mom and music. Because the same thing, like learning an instrument, same kind of a thing, creative outlet. It gets the whole left side of the brain firing, and it's like, because if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. But that's real, and like how much that
100%,
how much that part, and like even like the creativity and like coming up with something like a new thesis and work, like, and how much that impacts like the carryover is like it's understated, like how helpful that can actually be.
Yeah. What do you think that your like outlets are, like ways that you can like activate that left side of your brain are?
This helps a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I've always loved drawing. Going way back when, I've always loved drawing. Not that I'm good at it or anything.
Sure.
But like even like in my day-to-day job when I'm waiting for someone to answer, like I have a lot of like, I don't want to say downtime, but like a lot of my day is waiting.
Yeah.
Like waiting for someone to answer the phone, or I'm on hold, or I'm dying, like whatever. Like I have, 30 seconds here, there. I love doodling. This helps a lot. Like when, like before you came on, it's like, I know I want to talk to you, and I know I have, 4 things, generalities that I want to talk about. But when I sit down and actually think about it, it's like, okay, I have to get creative. Like, what are some like real good questions like we can discuss with this? Because it's like if I don't want to say if I don't come prepared, but like if I'm just bullshitting, it's gonna be terrible.
No, I totally get that. And I was gonna say at some point during this, I think you I've been impressed with the way that you've just kept this kind of going, and
thank you.
You've been engaged, and it's been like personal to me. It's not like what do you like to do? Like,
exactly.
And I think it helps that we're friends. And like when I was talking to Kelly about this, and she was like, what are you gonna talk about? And I was like, I don't know. Like I was like, I've talked to Jack for longer before, like, so I'm sure he'll have topics, but it hasn't felt just like it's felt like very engaged and very in depth.
Thank you.
And I
appreciate that.
Yeah, but I've enjoyed watching the other ones too. Like I think that they are very well tailored to the people that you're talking to, and I think it's been interesting for sure.
Thank you, appreciate that. That's what because like it's just out of respect to you. It's like I don't like the fucking bullshit we were talking about earlier, like how everyone has podcast equipment. Like I don't want to have 100 people in here and have the same 5 questions. It's like, what's the fucking point of that?
Sure.
Like I want to know your story and behind you and all of that stuff. Thank you. I appreciate all that. I do on my desk. I wish growing up with my mom and piano, she tried to teach us piano lessons. We all did it here or there.
Same. I hated it.
Yeah, and I think it was because it's like, oh my God, Mom, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't my mom, you probably would have taken it a little bit seriously, whatever. I took
the same
guitar.
as like swim team.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to go.
Yeah, exactly. And like your dad's a baseball coach. Like, shut up, Dad.
Yeah.
I played guitar. Took guitar lessons. I played saxophone freshman year of high school. I wish that I was always envious and respected a lot of all the kids. Specifically in college, let alone them doing it now. But like when, because we had numerous friends, probably 4 or 5 friends that had guitars in their college rooms and actively played. Like Mo played all the time. Yeah. He played 4 people.
Right.
Naylor had one, May had one, Will had one. I'm probably missing a couple people. Yeah. But like I thought it was so cool. They were still Drew Rogers. Like I thought it was so cool. They still had that. They're still using that, and I wish that was something I kept up with. Like coloring, literally, how I was saying I have a lot of downtime. I have I don't know if you want to call them like adult coloring books.
No.
But like
Those are awesome.
like super fine line. Like you use like Sharpie pens for them. Like it's not.
There's a lot of psychology behind the benefits of those too.
Like
they are really good for your like brain.
I'm coloring like a 9x11 like full page like flower arrangement.
Right.
And like I'm like while I'm doing it, it doesn't take anything out of me because you know it's all patternized and everything, but it helps me a lot through the day just get through like. Okay, I got to sit here. I got to pound out 4 hours like this bullshit.
Yeah.
But like while I'm sitting there waiting, I just like
right.
just be actively coloring it. That helps a lot. I like that a lot. I don't know. I wish I was more keen on it. I wish I was more in tune with it. I think a lot of people. I wish. Obviously, my own experience. I wish most people were more in tune and keen with that because I really respect how you do it. Like you really go out of your way and do it, and you're on an art board. Like you really try and like get into it.
Shout out to Art St. Louis.
Yeah. And
which is an awesome organization, really. And I'm not going to sit here and just pitch Art St. Louis, but Art St. Louis is great, and it's been awesome to get to interact and experience local artists, and it really is a way that they can champion St. Louis art and
that's cool.
Provide people a space that is otherwise like expensive or difficult to get. It's hard to get your stuff out there, and yeah, we had a great art show last Saturday. It was our first exhibit in our new space on Locust Street.
That's right, Locust, and it was downtown.
Yeah, and it was awesome. The theme was like Memento Mori, and
I love that.
It was really cool, and it was really amazing to see all of the different artists' approach to death. And
because that's like I know I'm
like Remember You Will Die.
Yes, yeah,
and I think it was really interesting too because of how like taboo death is.
What a wild prompt.
Yeah, but I think it was interesting, and it created a great conversation because of how taboo death conversation is in Western culture.
People don't want to talk about it,
and it was really
live
cool,
forever,
right? And it was really cool to see how people approach the topic, and it was an awesome exhibit. It was a really cool, and it was great to get to meet some of the local artists.
What were some of the examples? What were some of your favorites?
I actually bought a piece.
Nice.
So trying to champion local art a little bit myself. I mean, there were some awesome photographs. I mean, there were things that were very literal interpretations of what death looks like. There was a lot of like figurative representation of like the items that dead people leave behind, or like kind of that like you have a necklace from your grandfather and that kind of stuff.
Heirlooms, etc.
Yeah, there were some really cool paintings of interpretations of death and the way that we approach death, or the way that we shy away from looking at death. There's a great painting of it was a man that like the kind of the basis of the painting was like you don't know if he's sleeping or if he's dead, and it like what is the difference, and what does that look like in our lives? And
that's deep.
Yeah, it was really cool, and it was a great exhibit, and like so many people show up and show out for the local art community, and it was really cool.
That's awesome. That's two things from that. I still have yet to go to the art museum in Forest Park. I know, dude. I know.
It truly is one of the best art museums I've ever been to, and
that's
free.
Saying something.
It's fucking free.
Yeah, I need to go to it because I love that shit.
But
like,
they get great exhibits. They have some awesome works. They have some even incredible like older artifacts and stuff. It's really cool.
When we did study abroad, we went to a couple in various cities. Couldn't tell you whatever the Mona Lisa was, wherever that is. No, I didn't do the Louvre. Mona Lisa's in, is that the Louvre?
The glass pyramid.
I didn't go there, though. It was when we were in Rome. Was that when we were in Rome?
I'm pretty sure the Mona Lisa's in the Louvre. You can look it up. I could be wrong.
Is the Mona Lisa. It is in the Louvre. What the fuck? In Paris. I didn't go to Paris. Huh. I wonder what I saw. Oh, no, dude. I saw the fucking, oh, God. The tablet that tells you about language.
The Rosetta Stone.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I'm crazy. I'm pretty sure that painting's in the Louvre.
Oh my god, dude. Where's the Rosetta Stone? I think that's in Rome.
Okay.
Rosetta Stone. Oh, it's in the British Museum. Okay, so we were in London. That makes sense. But it's like, the British Museum, it's like a historical museum, but also an art museum. And it was really cool to see. And when we were in one of our like day trips and we were in Spain, we went to this like crazy Spanish art museum. And that's the same thing as like the Basilica, Cathedral, shit like that. Like seeing that stuff, it blows me away. And that's one thing that how you bought a piece. That's now that we own a home, I would really like to start going out of my way to buying art and not just, like the fucking Longhorn cattle from Target that 90% of apartments have. Like, I'd rather start buying actual pieces than doing shit like that, which I think is so dope. Because again, support local, especially support local artists. Because I can't imagine trying to get into that space.
No, and I think in some way or another I have a knowledge or connection to all of the art in my apartment.
Oh, that's sick.
So
you think so? But between you purchasing it, you doing it, someone giving it to you, something like that?
Yeah, I think I have a Picasso print that is obviously just like well known. But yeah, I think for the most part, almost all of the art is either people I know, stuff I've bought around here, or I think I just bought a like Philip Guston painting as well, but
wish I knew who that was.
But just like a print of something. But yeah, for the most part, I think all my art is, in some way involved or connected to me, which I like too. And
that's cool.
It's stuff I want to see.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to walk into my house and, see some,
$30 print from Target.
Yeah, the Longhorn print or something like that. So, and no knock to it. Like, I appreciate anyone that's willing to put things that visually like make them happy in their apartment. You should and it's a great building block to it. But yeah, and I mean, there's all and like I was talking to someone about this the other day because like my emphasis in English was like American poetry, but I think that poetry and art are looked at in the same way as like this like very high level like
interpretation kind of shit.
Yeah, and like I don't want to say snobby, but like this like elitist, like aristocratic like practice.
Yes.
But like, and like people don't realize this about poetry, which is always something that, which was something that fascinated me and really was the beginning of why I was so interested in this, was that poetry was so much more of a uniform part of everyday life. So like one of the classes I took in undergrad was Poetry of the Civil War.
Oh.
A fascinating class. But like, the Post-Dispatch, for example, like not a thing, but like there used to just be like poems in the newspaper.
Really?
Like that's how like people got some kind of news, and it was just like the same as any like article written or like artistic interpretation
Some
stuff.
column
like,
or whatever.
Poetry really has always been a like uniform part of everyday life and like an integral part of it in a way that people express themselves, in a way that people got information. And so I think that people should look at buying art in the same way. And you don't have to go spend $10,000 at the Clayton Art Fair.
Yeah, you could.
Because we can't afford to, and you shouldn't do that unless you can't afford to. And then more power to you. But like I just bought a great print of a lino cut, like how people etch into the like those pads and then they screen roll it and print it.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I've just bought an awesome print from like of a lino cut from a local artist at the Tower Grove Farmers Market, and it was like $30, and it was like a print of the inside of the staircase of the City Museum.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it was really cool. It's like you're supporting a guy who's like, this is something I'm really passionate about, and this is something I want to do, and he has a booth at the farmers market. So I think that there's a middle ground between buying stock art at Target and spending money at the Clayton Art Fair. Yeah, or buying a fucking sculpture or something like that. So.
I feel like that's what's a lot of misunderstood about it. Is it like people are like, yeah, like to get into art, it's like, buy a 4x3 painting, like you have to spend $1,000. It's like you can just buy what you think is cool. Mm-hmm. whether it's a print, a painting, a photo, a sculpture, whatever. It's like it doesn't have to be this crazy, hyped up, expensive thing. It can just be what you think is cool, what you think is going to look good.
Yeah. And there's a great art scene in St. Louis of like, there's a lot of like cafes you can go to that just have art on the wall
that you can buy.
Yeah,
all the time.
Buy something off the wall. There's that Gallery Pizza and Pub place right next to my new apartment now.
Yes, yeah. Caddy corner to the Idle Hands.
Yeah.
Yes, everything in there. Yeah, I remember there was somewhere by my old work that they just had stuff on the wall you could buy.
Yeah, and there's a great one in Benton Park too that is just a like breakfast cafe. But there's art all over the walls from local artists, and you can buy a $60 print, which isn't cheap. Like I understand that it's not, but if you're gonna spend $40 on a print from Etsy and you're gonna frame it anyway, then or honestly get on Etsy. I've bought a lot of like original like either lino cut prints or original art paintings on Etsy from artists that are putting their heart and soul into work, and they're trying to make a living making art. And you can spend the same amount of money as you would on a print that you buy off of fucking Redbubble or whatever it is. Like, and yeah, it's not the Man U logo, but yeah, buy something you think is interesting.
There was something that
and that you like, and there's no like. It doesn't have to be a Dali print, or it doesn't have to be like a some expression,
some Warhol bullshit. It's like the blue
wall
with a red line or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, buy what you like.
That's what.
Buy something you want to look at every day.
Yes, exactly. Like don't buy it because it's cool and you hate it. Like you're not gonna hang it up.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah,
but like you don't need a fucking Starry Night print.
We had one in the annex, the one that you gave us, that huge one. It's behind our TV.
Right, but if you like it, then like it.
Key thing is behind our TV.
And then, but I think the reverse is true. Like, people are like, "Oh, this is the Picasso blue," and it's like, yeah, the painting's famous for a reason. Like, people like that shit, and it's cool. Like, if you like it, like it. Buy the Sunflower Van Gogh print,
right?
If you really enjoy looking at it,
if that's what you like, yeah,
right.
I think
it doesn't have to be this like aristocratic practice,
this grandiose bullshit.
Yeah.
There's a dude that I follow on Instagram who's he's a photographer. I wish I could remember his name. He's super famous. Like he's really into like I guess you'd call it like wildlife photography.
Sure.
And he recently, a couple years ago, he came out with a coffee table book.
Yeah.
Thick ass thing, a foot by a foot, huge book, 300 pages, all prints of his. But the foreword was by Tom Brady. Like, unbelievable book. And, like, I repost his stuff all the time on my stories. God, I wish I could remember his name. Famous black and white wildlife photographer. That's not him. God, I wish I could remember who it was. David Yarrow. That's exactly who it is. You know who David Yarrow is?
I feel like only from your Instagram.
This shit.
Yeah.
It's always black and white. It's always like insane up close shots. He does these crazy things with women and like wolves and cars, and like he has a leopard in a bar one time. Like this crazy shit. Anyways, I really want his coffee table book. It's expensive.
Sure.
But it's sick. My buddy Will Camden has it, and like I flipped through it. I was like, "This is unbelievable."
Yeah.
And then, so like, let's say whenever this was, I saw it at Will's house, and then like 6 months later was when me and my family went to Breckenridge for our summer vacation.
Sure.
And then one of the days in Breck, we went to is either Aspen or Vail, I forget, but Aspen or Vail, whatever it is, they're both bougie ass ski places. But his base gallery, his home gallery, is in whatever place we were.
Sure.
And so you could buy his original stuff. And, like, this picture, like, just as an example, like, this picture on, like, a 10 by 4, 10 feet wide, 4 feet tall, was, like, $35,000.
Yeah.
And, like, he had, like wooden, like, carved out of, like, tree stump bald eagles that were, like, 7 feet tall, 4 feet wide for like $150,000. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I thought I liked this guy. I guess I can't like him that much anymore. But at the same time, if you go to his website, you can just buy his prints.
Right.
It's like you don't have to buy the original whatever.
No.
You can just buy his shit. And I really like his stuff. And through him, I've gained a serious appreciation for, like, photography and, like, what he can do.
Sure.
Which I think is sweet. And at the same time, like, how you were talking about poetry, like, art is how you see it. It's not, like, just because someone threw something on a canvas or whatever doesn't mean, like, doesn't have to be art to you. Like, poetry, writing, that's a form of art. Music and like lyricism, that's a form of art. Like all of it, it's all the same. Like whichever one's your preferred, I guess, outlet, whichever your preference is okay. It's all good.
No, 100%. Yeah, and I think like just go look at it.
All right, yeah.
Like there's like the Free Art Museum and like our Contemporary Art Museum here is awesome.
Where's that? Or what area?
It's downtown.
Okay.
Or like I think it's a midtown. But like if you just look up like St. Louis Contemporary Art Museum, great museum, probably $10. If you still have your
$10, dude.
Or if you still have your student ID, it's probably like $8. Wash U has a great art museum.
It's on Wash Ave.
Yeah.
Oh, it's that building.
Yeah. And then there's a Wash U art museum also.
This thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what May's wedding was at the Atkins Museum in KC.
Yeah, the Nelson Atkins.
That was fucking sweet, dude.
That's their equivalent of our St. Louis Art Museum. That's a fantastic museum, too.
Oh, my God, dude. I was blown away.
That museum has maybe not my favorite, but one of my favorite paintings ever in it. It's called Olive Orchards by Van Gogh. And it is like, it's a cool painting to look at, but there's
yeah, I know that one. This thing.
Mm-hmm. And there's like it's this one. There's multiple of them. But it is it's, I don't know, 3x5 or something like that. But there is a feeling you get when you're in like the presence of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And same with
like they have the original.
Yeah, like it is the Van Gogh, and it's there. It doesn't travel.
Damn.
It's like it's there, and they move it around in the museum, which is cool because I like walking through there and kind of going on like a hunt for the painting.
Not know what you're gonna see next.
But one of my favorite things that I saw when I went to France was the Musée d'Orsay, which is a lesser known but still really well known art museum in Paris, and it's in an old train station, and it's beautiful.
Whoa, that's cool.
And they have a ton of original Van Goghs, including like one of his most famous self-portraits.
Oh, whoa.
But there is I don't remember the name of it, but the painting of like that bedroom that he did, like the tiny one that's kind of like, and like that's there, and like there's some awesome paintings there, but there is like you should just go look at art, because there's a feeling you get when you're in the presence of these things that people created and have lasted the test of time, and they're spectacular. Like it really is like, I don't want to say religious, but like it is like an emotional experience to like go look at these things. And I feel like people stick their nose up at it, or
it's easy to, because like you see a painting go for $80 million, and like you see these art galas where it's black tie, $10,000 entry fee. It's like, oh, fuck that shit.
100%. And I think like, well, I don't want to get into like the what is art thing.
No,
just because everyone has their own kind of opinion of it. But like there's some of that stuff that I'm like, I don't fuck with this. Like,
but then at that level, it's like, that's
but my opinion doesn't matter,
right? Because it's what you think of it. That's the whole thing.
And like, yeah, if you like it, but go look at stuff.
And I think that's
go to local art museums.
That's a whole nother conversation. A misconception of it is like a lot of art is tax evasion. Like when you're buying, like people you see like, oh, they bought it for $50 million and sold it for $90 million. Yeah, they put it on their boat. They never docked the boat.
Yeah,
it's like they don't have to pay the taxes, and then they sell it from $90 million to $100 million. And they get $10 million tax free. It's just like,
yeah, that's just some billions.
Yeah, it's just some bullshit. And it's like, don't get into that shit. Just like, it's okay to like art. It's okay to be into it. It's okay to have the outlet.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna buy $30,000 paintings.
Right.
But
Oh, that's we did in high school. What was it? I did like a combined course through SLU senior year, like
1818 credit.
Yes, yeah, that.
Yeah.
And I guess call it a field trip, whatever. We went to SLU for a day. We did the SLU Art Museum. Is there an art museum by SLU College? We did that, and that was really cool.
Yeah. It's like a gallery that they rotate.
Yeah, there was
like
an exhibit going on.
Yeah, it's really cool though.
And I think at the time it was like a Chinese artifacts kind of thing. There was like samurai gear everywhere and shit like that. I was like, this is sweet. This is really cool.
Yeah, there's an awesome like Japanese art museum in Dallas.
Oh, that's cool.
That has a lot of like old samurai gear and stuff like that. It's really cool. The Dallas Art Museum is.
I can only imagine.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean that's just backed by infinite dollars.
Yeah, it's. I was gonna say it's probably like $30 to get in. But
so how does the St. Louis Museum work? The St. Louis Art Museum, is it also in rotation, or do they have staple pieces? What's that situation?
They have. So my understanding of it is like a lot of these people, probably some tax shit too, but like gift these things to the St. Louis Art Museum. So there's some things that you're like, this is here, you know it's here, like that kind of thing.
Like the Van Gogh at Atkins.
Yeah. And then there's some things that are there, but they move around, like they just kind of like mix it up. When you first walk into the St. Louis Art Museum, there's some like spaces that you can kind of see, like in the main like hallway, like entrance.
Yeah.
That are for like big installations and like, I don't know, they've had like a Jeff Koons like balloon dog in there, like one of his huge ones, like stuff like that, which I hate Jeff Koons, but we don't have to get into that. I think I've gone back and forth on that, but I think that is like partially the tax evasion stuff, and I think a lot of it is like gimmicky, but in the sense that like people are willing to pay for it, and it kind of begs the question of like, what is high art?
Yeah.
Because like people buy it,
it's a
and
balloon
he's made
animal.
a lot. Yeah, and he's made a lot of money off of it, and like, but it, whatever, neither here nor there. And then so in the last, I want to say like 4 or 5 years, the St. Louis Art Museum did like a big addition on the left side of it.
Okay.
And there they now have like rotating galleries there. So they did I'm gonna forget the name of the other guy, but they did they had a Monet exhibit that was like it was kind of like a collaborative exhibit between Monet and a more modern and like much more abstract artist. And I don't like this word when it's used in art, but it really was about like the juxtaposition of the two.
Juxtaposition of it all.
Yeah, and like but it really is like, how do you compare these like bold, big, abstract pieces of art that are like harsh and you know, use a lot of paint and a lot of like, you know, made to like the, I don't want to say untrained eye, but you know, like it look like random and like, you know, to these like very famous historical Monet paintings, and it's like you're looking at them next to each other, and you're in the same room as these massive abstract
that's
paintings.
crazy.
Yeah,
next
like,
to each other.
Right, and you're looking at these like massive abstract paintings with huge fucking red smears across the front to like water lilies.
Yeah.
And it's like, what does that do? You know, what is it like to be in the same room with these two kind of paintings? And, you know, how does that change how you feel about one or the other? Or, you know, are they similar? Like, do you look at them and you see, like, they are so different on the surface, but do you see these kind of, like, connections between the two process, you know, hundreds of years and, you know, tens of dozens of art styles, you know, or art movements.
Separated,
separated from each other, you know. How does that kind of stuff hold up? Like, what kind of principles do we still look at, you know, over time kind of thing?
You saw this recently?
Probably like 2 years ago.
Okay.
They did this. But long story short, they've now built in a kind of rotating gallery exhibit into the St. Louis Art Museum that the original stuff also moves a lot, but this is like they just rotate in and out a couple exhibits all the time. So
I'm gonna put that, dude. Britt brought a white we have a calendar and like a mini whiteboard, like the size of a printer piece of paper in the kitchen, and it's just like to-do list, what groceries you need, blah, blah, blah. Right now, it's just a checklist of things that I want to do soon.
Yeah.
And one of them's Grant's Farm, one of them's Hibachi, and then one of them's Lone Elk Park down in South County. And I'm gonna add
Lone Elk Park is cool.
I just got
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's like bears, bison, elk, everything in there.
It's kind of wild.
Yeah, and it's in like Fitton. Like it's here.
Close.
It is in St. Louis.
For sure.
And I just got like an ad for it, and I was like, I want to go do that. And then Noah just went to Grant's Farm, and I was like, I don't think I've been to Grant's Farm in 15 years, maybe.
Yeah, I took some kids I nannied for in college to Grant's Farm, and I was like, this is awesome.
Holy shit, I did too. The kids and I nannied, we went to we fed goats. That's right.
Yeah.
But I wasn't of age. But Noah said that when you go, it's your first 2 drinks are free. You get drink tokens.
I didn't realize that. I didn't know that.
I went at like 2 PM, and I was nannying, so I
Same.
should be drinking.
Yeah, I'm sure I turned down the beer.
Yeah.
But,
I'm gonna add the same because even when I fucking lived at our
dude,
old
I'd love to.
apartment-
I mean, anytime you want to go.
Where is Grant's Farm? That's south.
Grant's Farm. Yeah, it's like a little.
Is that Afton, Melville?
It's in Afton. It's a little south of. It's right next to Corrier Zoo. It's like it's south of Watson.
Okay. Yep. It's right there. I really want to do that
like,
soon.
I don't know, 8 minutes from my parents' house. It's
just
close.
south of Webster. Yeah, it probably is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right by Tapawingo. Right by.
Yeah, I
it's
guess
close.
I guess it is kind of close. Yeah.
I'm gonna add the art museum to it.
Also, a place that you should put on your list is Lumeyer Sculpture Park. That's right next to Tapawingo. You'll see
Lumeyer Sculpture Park. Whoa. Oh, dude, I've seen this shit.
Dude, fantastic. Like park/art exhibit.
I spelled Lumeyer so wrong. Well, couldn't be more off. This shit, yeah, I've seen this thing.
Mm-hmm. But it's really cool because it is a like you show up and it's like a path, like a walking path.
Yeah.
And you walk just kind of like you're on like the Katy Trail type of thing.
Oh.
And then you just show up at some
crazy shit like
physical
this.
art installation. And then
is this like a free park?
Yeah.
Huh.
100% free. You just walk in. And then, you just like walk on this path, and then you can walk like all around and through these art installations, and then you just like keep going down the path.
Huh.
And you can walk through all this stuff. Yeah.
This shit's crazy.
Totally free. It's really cool. And
I've
they do events there and stuff, which I've never done, but.
Oh, that's what I was going to bring up. Have you done, we've done that, my family's done it the past couple of years at Botanical Gardens right next to you.
Garden Glow?
Yeah. And do you know what artist that is? Does it rotate? Last year, it was like a glass artist.
So they have a ton of Dale Chihuly sculptures there that are there all the time, and they probably do bring some more in.
They do. For the Garden Glow, they do.
He is like the glass artist.
So
he actually has his own museum in Seattle.
Does he really?
It is incredible.
So my family is like from Indianapolis, and growing up, we would always go to the Indianapolis Children's Museum.
I'm listening to you, I promise.
And at the Indianapolis Children's Museum, what's his name?
Dale Chihuly.
He has these crazy installations that are permanent. This thing. Like, this is instilled in my memory as a kid. That's 4 stories tall.
Yeah.
And it's all this glass shit.
He also did the ceiling of the Bellagio.
Whoa.
And it's the single largest glass installation
in the world. Good God.
But I remember as a kid being, like, fascinated with
it. At the Children's Museum, there's a whole ceiling. Probably the same shit as the Bellagio.
It's incredibly interesting. I'm going to...
Yeah, did you see it in Seattle? Did you go to the one in Seattle?
I went to the museum in Seattle, and it was so cool. And we saw a glass blowing demonstration.
Oh,
there
that's
too,
sick.
Which it's actually something that Kelly and I looked into doing. So we did this pottery class for our anniversary, and it was a ton of fun. And but she looked into us doing like a glass blowing class, but it's really expensive.
Yeah, like $200 a pop or something.
No, it's a lot more than that.
Really?
Because you have to do like multiple. Like it's not something you can just like if you and I want to go throw on a wheel.
Not a 2-hour session.
Right. Yeah, it's something you got to like learn about, and like it's I mean, for lack of a better term, it's a dangerous kind of.
I mean, let alone the materials in the oven and all that stuff. Or not? What is it? An oven? Do you stick the thing in there and pull it back out, or is it like a torch?
No, it can be both. It's kind of both. So you do like your main kind of like firing in like an oven, but it's like 3,000 degrees or something. But yeah, just like this kind of stuff, same kind of thing.
Oh.
But he had this whole thing in like a really dark room of all these like lit up. It was all like this kind of stuff that you like walk through.
That's sick.
It was really interesting, but yeah, it was and then like he built like. This was a huge like sculpture, but like he built like it's not just like abstract, like they're like octopi like that he builds on this. He is the creme de la creme of glass blowers.
So how Dale Chihuly? I just got an eye patch. He's 82.
Yeah, he's still kicking it.
Wow, good for him. Yeah, this shit is crazy.
But he really changed glass blowing.
That's what blew me away about the thing at Botanical is that it was all shipped in. And that's what, like, obviously me and my dad, like, on the business side of it, was like, how logistically this has got to be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Because, there is hundreds of sculptures, thousands of pieces of glass.
Yeah.
Most of these pieces of glass, they're not like, 4 or 5 inch things. They're 2-3 feet long pieces of glass.
Yeah.
I can't imagine moving those from wherever they came from. Yeah. Fucking call it.
I think a lot of them are in Washington.
Yeah, like I can't imagine logistically because you got to have, plan B. It's like, what if.
Well, and they're all insured, obviously, and stuff like that, but yeah.
But then you just ship another truck down. Hey, Dale, we need more.
Yeah, start blowing.
Yeah. Truck B popped a tire. The 70-footer's down.
But yeah, that's a cool. It's a cool experience, and like we're botanical garden members because I live, a 4-minute walk from the botanical garden. So I just go there like randomly.
It's cheap if you're a city resident, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I want to say we do like the couples one, and it's like $30 a person a year.
Yeah, it's super cheap. I knew it was like dollars a month.
Yeah, and then you get to go to we'll still have to pay for Garden Glow, but it's like a third of the price.
Right, $5.
Yeah,
whatever.
so like we went to the Japanese festival and it was like $7 a piece or something like that, which that was really cool too.
I think I did that. I think they've done that a couple years now. I think I did that a couple years ago.
I love that.
During the summer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, probably a month or so ago.
Sounds right. Yeah, because my old work, whenever shit was going on, I'm like, yeah, fuck it. Meet me here. I'll go.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks, man. I really got nothing else unless you want to keep going. We're at 2.5 hours.
No, this was great. I think we covered a lot.
We did. We really tapped on everything that I kind of wanted to get into. Thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate you coming out. I know it's kind of a hike.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very happy to be here. This was awesome.
I hope you got something out of it.
I did. No, I learned stuff about you. I learned a little bit about myself, probably. But yeah, go look at art.
Yeah.
Buy local art.
Yeah. What's going on with you? What do you want to tell everybody?
Artists. No. Yeah. If you need a good litigation attorney,
shout out.
Hope you don't, but if you do, call me.
Referrals right here.
But yeah, please. If anyone's interested in Art St. Louis, participating in any events, just coming to look at stuff or submitting stuff. Submitting stuff is free. Yeah, you can send in submissions. We do different, galleries throughout the year. So if anyone's interested in looking at local art or purchasing local art, please let me know.
Sick.
But yeah, hope you come on.
Awesome.
If you're invited.
If you're invited.
If you're lucky enough to be invited. So
if you catch the code. Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it.
I love you. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for stopping by.